Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. Tonight, I'm going to do something that's been on my to-do list for quite some time. Some time ago, people began requesting that I listen to and cover some of the fantastical claims being made by one David Adair. What can I say about this guy? Essentially, he claims to be like a real-life Forrest Gump kind of character who has interacted with some of the most famous people in the world, in the world of science, including Wernher von Braun, Stephen Hawking, and many other famous scientists. But there's absolutely no evidence or proof that he's actually even met those people. But according to David Adair, he's such a whiz kid that at 15 years old, he created a fusion reactor rocket engine that just so happened to be the exact same engine that the secret cabal or whatever had stored away at Area 51 from some sort of crash retrieval. But the one at Area 51 was the size of a school bus, and his was tiny. Yeah, so the claims are really fantastical, but it doesn't stop there. I've got a list of some of his claims and how easily provably wrong they are. And I guess what's fascinated me about the David Adair story is that this guy gets booked at UFO conventions all the time. And it appears that everybody just sort of copies and pastes his biography that he provides people, and nobody checks any of his claims. It's incredible. And one thing you'll notice if you watch anything on David Adair is that no one who ever interviews him stops him. Any normal person hearing these famous scientists like him interacting with Stephen Hawking would stop him and say, wow, that's incredible. Do you have like a picture of you two together or any kind of evidence or proof of your time with Stephen Hawking? David Adair literally claims that he was such a smart whiz kid, a science kid at 15 years old, that Stephen Hawking literally sought him out to help him with math that that Stephen Hawking was having problems with. And what you get with this David Adair is that he's a big hero. He's a big science and technology hero, like the likes of Elon Musk. But if you actually ask around the aerospace industry, I guarantee you no one has ever heard of this man. I'm going to say that one more time. If you actually ask around the aerospace industry, no one has ever heard of this man. So here's one of the write-ups from some of his propaganda. How he learned about science in childhood through science books to his amazing photographs, memory, explore the man himself. He often receives his advanced scientific inventions in dreams. And on these claims of advanced scientific inventions, I went and did a patent search. David Adair holds no patents, but yet he somehow claims to have invented things like fusion rocket engines, thorium reactors, and more. Strange that a guy who is so scientifically accomplished wouldn't have any patents whatsoever or publish papers about his incredible inventions. So, what do we have here? Listen to this. Dr. Stephen Hawking, on meeting David, allegedly told him that he also gets his ideas while dreaming. David shares his ordeal of being forcibly taken to Nevada Groom Lake, Area 51, as a teenager. Yeah, he claims that the United States government kidnapped him and took him to Area 51 because he was such an incredible science guy and whiz kid at 15 that they needed his help in order to figure out how an alien engine that they somehow came across worked. And it just so happens that David Adair invented the very same engine that the government had, an alien engine, and it was a fusion rocket engine. It just gets so deep so quickly. He claims that he was taken to Area 51 as a teenager, along with his latest rocket prototype. He describes the alien engine he examined under the base and how he kept his knowledge in rocket from being used by the U.S. government. Great. And here's where it gets interesting. At age 17, And this is what I have a real problem with some people in the so-called UFO community. You want to platform this clown, fine, but you better do your job. Because according to David Adair, at age 17, he won, quote, the most outstanding in the field of engineering services award from the United States Air Force. Currently, David has his own research company, Intersect Incorporated. He continues to work and speak on advanced technology and sustainable energy for the whole planet. Well, there's a problem with this. I reached out to an Air Force contact. This is an award that he claims that he won at age 17. The most outstanding in the field of engineering services award from the U.S. Air Force. Well, that award doesn't exist. It didn't exist when David Adair was 17, and it doesn't exist now. And we can show some evidence of that. And the evidence of that is simply this. If this was a real award from the Air Force, you'd be able to find some mention of it on the internet. But if we want to do live fact checking on him right now, and this is why I have such a problem. You people want to make the money helping people tell alien fairy tales, then do your job. You can't do one Google search. We'll just copy and paste that. I'm going to put that into, Google. And what we get when we Google the most outstanding in the field of engineering services award, what we get is no mention of anybody except for David Adair's claims of having won this award. It's very simple to do that. And what you see is the only mention of this prestigious Air Force award that he claims that he has won is from David Adair himself. Can we find some other recipients of this prestigious Air Force award that he got at 17 for being such a child prodigy and rocket scientist at age 17? No, you will find no one else that has ever won the most outstanding in the field of engineering services award. So why don't people that interview this guy actually fact check him? Could it be because if you fact check this guy, he turns out to be a complete total bullshitter? And that might ruin the UFO gravy train. You can make money. Go look at this guy's views. And this guy is a complete and total clown. I'm sorry. Try to be fair, but at some point you have to say this is ridiculous. So let's go through some of his other claims. He claims he worked on designing and developing the F-16 and F-18 engines and aircraft while he was in the Navy. Well, there's a huge problem with that. The Navy did not design or develop either of those two airplanes. General Dynamics designed and developed the F-16, not the Navy. They had nothing to do with it. They may have purchased the F-16 from private industry that created the F-16, developed it, designed it, manufactured it, but no, the Navy did not have anything to do with that. So he claims he was in the Navy and he was such a whiz kid that he developed F-16 and F-18 engine parts and other components for these airplanes. And, it's very simple. Show us the proof of that claim. And again, the F-18 Hornet was developed by McDonnell Douglas and Northrop. It was designed and they designed and manufactured the F-18, not the Navy. The Navy may have purchased some of those aircraft, but no, nobody in the Navy was working on developing those airplanes. And that's another issue. He's made all of these various claims about what he did in the Navy, from underwater demolition to developing jet aircraft, and all these claims. Show us your DD-214s. For those unaware, if you're in the military, there is something called a DD-214, which is a very detailed record of your service, where you served, what classes you took, promotions, accommodations, awards you've won, where you were stationed, what your responsibilities were while you were at that Navy base or whatever. All he has to do is release his records to prove some of this stuff. He can't and he won't. And by the way, I reached out to him and he blocked me after I asked him to see the proof of his military claims. He also claims that he built a rocket at home at age 14 to 15 that flew at over 6,000 miles an hour. I don't know. I grew up building model rockets, and even huge, 20 or 30 foot tall with huge engines, even huge professionally made model rockets, usually fly at under 250 miles an hour. But we're just supposed to believe that a 15-year-old kid was somehow able to build a better rocket engine and rocket system as a 15-year-old child in his parents' basement that flew at over 6,000 miles an hour. And again, if he could build that engine at 15, then why can't he build one now and show us his rocket going 6,000 miles an hour and prove that claim? He can't and he won't, because this guy is so full of shit, he waddles instead of walks. This is all just fantasy. It's all just fairy tales from a literal bullshitter. But UFO people eat this up. And by the way, I made a bunch of huge model rockets. None of my model rockets ever did over 250 miles an hour. And I love his only proof is like a local newspaper did an article on him as a child building model rockets. Well, I can show you 100 other examples of kids building rockets getting in the local paper. It doesn't prove you went to Area 51. It doesn't prove you built a rocket that did 6,000 miles an hour. It doesn't prove that you worked on jet aircraft in the Navy that had nothing to do with their design or manufacture. It gets great. It just keeps getting better. He also claims that he was an expert in rockets, and he was such an expert in rockets that world leaders in the field of rocketry sought him out for advice and help, including Wernher von Braun and Jack Parsons. He also claims that he was an underwater demolitions expert. He also claims that he was a nuclear power expert for the United States Navy. He also claimed that he worked on projects for NASA. No proof or evidence of that he ever worked for or with NASA, either as a direct employee or a subcontractor. I checked. He claims that he was a 15-year-old crop dusting pilot who learned to fly a plane just by reading the manual. And these poor farmers, they bought a brand new airplane in order to do crop dusting in the local town he lived in, but they couldn't find a pilot. So a bunch of grown men adults who purchased a brand new airplane just let a 15-year-old get in it and fly it after reading the manual. This stuff is so stupid. By the way, we're going to play you these clips. I'm not making this shit up. I couldn't. It's too stupid to make this up. He claims also that he was given $5 billion by a wealthy Middle Eastern tech investor to build a space agency to compete with NASA. That was several years ago. Where's the space agency, David Adair? So far, no proof that he's got $5 billion or that anybody gave him any money to start a space agency. But there is proof that David Adair is working tiny UFO conferences in the middle of the Midwest in small towns for $150. So, you know, at some point, I just ask my listeners, like, if somebody gave you $5 billion to develop a space agency, would you be working at little UFO conferences telling your bullshit stories for $150 a pop? Or would you be, you know, on the road to building a space agency with that $5 billion? And by the way, this is one of those cases of people that is just so stupid, so childish, and so ridiculous that I don't want to do it. But people ask me constantly about this guy. We've done one other show on him that got huge views because people, I guess, they need somebody to tell them that this guy's a bullshitter. I'll tell you, this guy's a bullshitter. I'll tell you. I'll put my reputation on the line that nothing this guy says is reality. Let's go over some other of his claims. He claimed that he would bring back the space shuttle program by just buying some brand new space shuttles from Rockwell International. And he made that claim 2 years ago. Remember, he was starting his own space agency. Oh, what are you going to do, David? Oh, I'm buying 6 brand new space shuttles from Rockwell International. But there's a problem with that. I called Rockwell International and they confirmed for me that they no longer, as of 2 years ago, as soon as the space shuttle program was disbanded, they don't have the tooling, the manufacturing, or the personnel to manufacture any new space shuttles. They have no capability to do that. And he's telling people that he already called up Rockwell and they're going to deliver to him 6 space shuttles. It's so childish and stupid, it's ridiculous. But you can call Rockwell yourself and try to order a space shuttle. Let me know what they tell you. He claimed that he fixed math problems that Stephen Hawking was stuck on and unable to do the math for some of his problems. So David Adair was sought out by Hawking to help him with the math that he was having trouble with. Do you see the problem here? This guy's smarter than Stephen Hawking at 15 years old. I mean, come on. This is so stupid. He also claimed that he designed and built a fusion rocket-based engine at 15 years old, but somehow he can't demonstrate it or prove his claimed fusion rocket ever existed. There's no patents for it. He holds no patents. And, you know, at some point you have to say, okay, so if he could make this engine as a 15-year-old kid in his parents' basement with no real budget or tools or supplies, why couldn't he do it now, right? With modern technology, and show us all this fusion-based rocket motor that you made at 15 years old that can fly rockets at 6,500 miles an hour. He can't, and he won't. I find that to be proof positive that he's full of shit about his rocket engine claims. And again, the burden of proof is on the person making the claims, right? So some of his supporters like to tell me how wrong I am. And I simply say, show me the evidence that he built that. Show me the proof that he built that. Can we see the schematic of how it works? Well, we can get a diagram, but it doesn't prove it works. He also claims that he interacted with such famous people in the aerospace industry as well known in the aerospace industry, like astronauts, Neil Armstrong, like Curtis LeMay, the founder of the Strategic Air Command, who apparently sought out 15-year-old David's help to build better air defenses, missiles, and rockets for the Strategic Air Command that he was forming at the time. Yeah, this makes total sense. Four-star generals always go looking for 15-year-old kids who can help them with, you know, building defensive weapons, right, while they're building the Strategic Air Command. It's so stupid and childish. And I wonder about these idiots that sit at UFO conferences, listen to this guy. He also claims that a wealthy Middle Eastern investor wanted to provide him with the funding and a lab facility to create thorium reactors. He claimed he would soon be also be buying 6 new space shuttles from Rockwell International for $36 billion. We've went over that. That's a completely and totally false claim. Take from that what you will. And I love how he built a rocket engine that somehow had the same engine as an alien spacecraft engine that was being stored, studied, and attempted to be back engineered at Area 51. But all of the government's greatest scientists that they took to Area 51 to figure out this alien engine couldn't figure it out. But they brought in 15-year-old David Adair, who told them exactly how the engine works and how to get it running again. This is such, I'm sorry. We should be able to just close the show here, but I know people want to sort of listen to this clown and laugh at him, and I'll do that with you. We also, before we begin, we want to take a moment to thank the kind and generous benefactors chiming in so far. Welcome to the show, longtime show supporter with a kind and generous £1.99, who says greetings. Thank you. Welcome to the show. And another one, another £1.99 says towards the buy a space shuttle fund. Well, according to David Adair, they only cost $6 billion each, so we're just a little bit short. But thank you for helping us to get a little closer. I'd like to buy a space shuttle, even though it's impossible and Rockwell International can't make them anymore. But thank you. Welcome to the show for helping us to praise the cash. Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash. All right. Pinned in the description of this video, right at the top, I have shared the source material for some of these claims that we're going to be sharing. Now, I found an older video. And it's interesting that Mr. Adair constantly expands on his story. Remember, people get tired of your original story, so then he has to invent new adventures he had as a 15-year-old space whiz kid that the government was consulting, and Werner von Braun told him what a genius he is because he couldn't figure out this alien engine, but this 15-year-old kid could, and Curtis LeMay came to him, and Stephen Hawking came to him for help with math, right? Sounds totally plausible. But the original seed of his story is essentially that he created this super advanced fusion reaction rocket engine, which he has no evidence or proof ever existed. And the government found out about it and essentially kidnapped him and took him to Area 51. This is about 20 minutes to get through this, but I think it's important that we go back to the root claims. These are his first and original claims. And like many in the UFO community, they get wilder. They get wilder as time goes on. But we're going to put up our fair use banner. First, we're going to thank High Speed Chase for kind of generous $2, who says, I want a space shuttle too. Don't we all? But thank you for helping us to praise the cash. All right, and I am going to put up my fair use banner. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public and critiquing the video that we are sharing. We are using this to educate the public about people making fantastical claims with no evidence concerning aliens and UFOs at Area 51. So we're citing fair use. This is a video called Area 51 Whistleblower. And, you know, that term gets thrown around. This guy's a whistleblower now? What's he blowing the whistle on? And again, another guy claiming the title of alien or UFO or Area 51, quote, whistleblower, unquote, who has absolutely no evidence, but he has plenty of stories. Let's get into his original story. It all begins here with a seed of bullshit planted by David Adair. And remember that he's been running around telling some version of this story for 30 years now. He's getting UFO conferences. He gets paid to be in documentaries. He's been on Gaia TV. And we know how, everybody knows how I feel. If something's on Gaia TV, it's automatically fake. Remember, they're the people who brought us David Wilcock, Emery Smith, Corey Good, Sarah R. Adams, and, you know, Jimmy Church, and many other just grossly fraud-related storytellers.
I was 13 years old when I built my first rocket, and it left the backyard at about 3,500 miles an hour. I was able to build it out of a construction machine shop that my...
Okay, so I'm sorry, I may have been wrong in that earlier part where I said he claimed 6,000. He says different things in different videos. In some of the videos, he said his first rocket went 6,000 miles an hour. In this one, he says 3,500 miles an hour. But again, if you go and buy the most powerful model rocket that you can today, it won't do more than 250 miles an hour. But somehow we're all supposed to believe that this guy built some kind of engine that went, what, 20 times the average speed of a rocket. And remember, look at these. These are not huge rockets. These are model rockets, like the kind that I built when I was a child. By the way, I once got in an awful lot of trouble for one of my rockets ending up on Interstate 95. But that's a story for another time. It's enough to say that I grew up building model rockets. I'm certainly okay with believing that this guy was building model rockets and getting some attention in local newspapers as a child. But you got to have evidence of your claims. If you're going to say you built a rocket that did 35 miles an hour, 3,500 miles an hour, pardon me, then build one now. Show us a recreation of that model rocket doing 3,500. But you never get that with him. It's just, by the time you get done thinking, I think this is BS, he's on to his next BS part. And nobody fact checks anything this guy says.
Father owned when he used to work for the mechanics and racing enterprises, and we had plenty of equipment and tools that allow such manufacturing to be done. As a matter of fact, our shops.
Yeah, I don't care how much equipment and tools you have. As a 13-year-old child, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I don't care how much tools and equipment you have. You're not building a rocket that does 3,500 miles an hour. So, you know, when we get to this level of, you know, I don't even know what you would call it, pathological lying. Like, this is pathological at this point, because he's always the hero of the story, and he makes himself to be so important in all of his stories. He's a big hero, and all these famous scientists are seeking him out because he's so smart. He can do math better than Stephen Hawking, after all. It's so ridiculous. It's pathological at some point. But, I would venture to guess that somebody who has been a aerospace professional for 50 years would have trouble building a rocket at home that does 3,500 miles an hour. But that's just me. You believe what you will.
Very similar to a rocket shop in equipment and materials. The rockets kept getting bigger, faster, till finally I was able to...
Again, this is his only evidence. Some write-ups in a local newspaper for building model rockets. And if you look on his Facebook, that's still the only proof he has. I think it says a lot about the whole UFO community that this guy has literally been working UFO conventions for 30 years, and this is his only evidence of his claims that somebody wrote a local newspaper article about a model rocket that he built at 13 or 15 years old. It's incredible to me. Like, I don't even know what else to say about that.
I get funded by a federal grant by a congressman named John Ashbrook.
This is another claim that's easily proven false. He claims that he got a federal grant from a senator. Well, people can FOIA that. I'm betting no, he didn't. Because, listen, do you have any idea what even the liabilities involved would be if the United States government just gave somebody free money to build rockets in their backyard? What if the kid hurt himself? What if he blew something up and killed himself? They wouldn't just give an underage minor research grant to play with model rockets in his backyard. That's a ridiculous statement. And I freely offer, David Adair can prove me wrong. Show me the paperwork. If there's a federal grant, there's paperwork. Show us the paperwork. You got a federal grant. And see, this is the problem that I have with David Adair and all these clowns that interview him to get their little piece of money out of this bullshit. Why don't you stop him and ask these questions? Nobody does. You can watch 100 videos of this guy spouting this nonsense, and nobody interviewing him ever stops with some logic and says, okay, you got a federal grant. There'd be paperwork. Can we see the paperwork from the federal grant you got? Of course not. Of course not.
And with that help, I was able to go ahead and complete a larger rocket with an entirely new type of engine, which was a fusion containment engine. The two primary engines we use today are solid propellant and liquid.
He said he created a fusion containment engine at 15 years old. I'm going to say that one more time. He created a fusion containment engine at 15 years old. Do you have any idea if he actually did that? What a fusion reactor would be worth? But we're supposed to believe that he created this at 15 years old and never cashed in on it. Nobody's ever seen one, but he did that at 15 years old. Science whiz kid that he is.
Propellant. There are about 61 different rocket engines, propulsion systems that you could leave this planet with. Two of them are just a solid and liquid fuel. I happen to just pick one out of the other 61 engines to pick from, and I manufactured a magnetic fusion containment engine, which it's
magnetic fusion containment engine. And he did this at 15 years old, remember?
Simple as.
So essentially, he's claiming that as a 15-year-old child, he created a fusion reactor in his backyard or at his daddy's shop who worked on race cars. Okay.
Since it's able to create a magnetic field capable of holding a thermal fusion reaction inside, like a chunk of the sun contained in a magnetic bottle.
Yeah, well, isn't this interesting? Like Elon Musk, why is Elon Musk wasting his time with, liquid fueled rockets or solid fueled rockets? Why doesn't he get this incredible engine? All you need is some magnets, right? It's so ridiculous.
When you tap that power, it allows you to have tremendous thrust, which is what makes the rocket go forward. And so imagine being able to tap onto the power of the sun for an acceleration factor. So that's a pretty interesting engine design. So once the engine...
It would be an interesting design if it actually existed. But somehow we're all supposed to believe that every other aerospace and rocket expert on planet Earth missed this incredible development in rocket technology and then ignored this incredible development in rocket technology and instead continued using 60-year-old, rocket techniques to get a rocket to Earth orbit or whatever. It's really a stretch, but okay, And I wonder about some of the people, especially the people attacking me for God forbid I apply some logic, right? You don't even. We talked about Brandolini's law too, and I just we've talked about it so much, and people were asking me about that I posted it on my Twitter. And Brandolini's law is a term coined in 2013 by Alberto Brandolini, who is an Italian computer programmer. And the law states that the amount of energy needed to refute bullshit is an order of magnitude bigger than that needed to produce it. So here's a problem. People like to attack me and say, like, well, you didn't prove that he didn't do that. Well, he's the one making the claim. How about you show us the goddamn fusion generator rocket engine, David Adair, instead of bullshitting for 3 hours straight about all the famous people and all of the amazing accomplishments you've had, but nobody in the aerospace industry has ever heard of this man. Is that a little suspicious? Right? I'm going to tweet to Elon Musk. What are you doing, man? This guy's got the goods. Why don't you have him build your engines, right? It's nonsensical. It's just childish nonsense. This guy is living some sort of fantasy. And I also wonder about the psychological things, because we've seen so many of these people that come up with these stories, and every single one of them, in my experience, or most of them, have been sort of invisible people that nobody ever listened to, nobody ever thought was anything special. Suddenly they come up with these stories and they're the center of attention. And that's what I think they get addicted to. Like we saw with Ashton Forbes with this MH370 hook. Suddenly, people are paying attention to him. Same thing with David Adair. He starts telling these stories about Area 51 alien engines and being kidnapped and knowing all these famous people and fixing math for Stephen Hawking and Curtis LeMay and hanging out with Neil Armstrong. And suddenly people pay attention to him.
And the rocket was completed. We obviously couldn't launch it where I was launching smaller rockets, which were out in cow fields in Ohio. So we had to go to White Sands, New Mexico, and that was arranged by the congressman and a consultant at the time who was a retired general named Curtis LeMay.
And notice that he always attaches his stories to very famous people. Well, Mr. Adair, we're going to go check if a congressman got you access. Listen to the ridiculousness. Let's just review what he just said. He built a fusion reactor rocket engine that was so powerful he couldn't test it, in a cow field like he tested his other rockets. So a congressman, or was it a senator, who cares, got him access to the missile test range at White Sands, which I would think that you need a top secret clearance to even step foot there, but what do I know, right? They just gave a 15-year-old kid a launch pass and told him, sure, you can bring your experimental rocket here to our secret missile test facility and rocket test facility and just launch it, right? And Curtis LeMay, the literal originator of the Strategic Air Command, is also on board with a 15-year-old kid launching a special rocket he built in his daddy's, mechanic shop somehow that has a fusion-generated engine. Sure. Oh, my God, it's so stupid. And when we get back to Brandolini's law, I don't need to go through all of the steps to disprove this. He's the one making the claims. Show us the paperwork. Show us the paperwork.
And Curtis LeMay made the arrangements from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. We rode down to White Sands on a C-141 Starlifter.
Yeah, so the military always does that, right? We can find other examples of the military flying 15-year-old whiz kids into top secret bases to test their inventions, right?
And when my rocket myself got there, we started prepping it for a launch. At the time that we launched, which was June 20th, 1971, a plane flew in the same day we did, and I stepped these men in black suits with mirror sunglasses, and they're DOD agents. And so DOD was interested in the operation, and they were alerted to it by the Air Force and probably the Congress and whoever else was funding the program. Among those men, there was some NASA officials there.
Oh, there's the connection. Oh, NASA. This 15-year-old kid is so smart that he designed an engine better than NASA could. So they all came to witness the launch because this guy's so important.
That I recognize. They instructed me to send a rocket down 656 miles northwest of there to a precise set of coordinates that they gave me.
Sure. So the military just says, hey, kid, shoot it right here. We'll give you the coordinates. And a 15-year-old kid knows exactly how to calibrate a rocket and steer it. And what about the guidance system to get it 655 miles? Again, just pure logic blows this whole story to shit. I'm sorry. I don't think a 15-year-old kid can build a rocket that could go 656 miles. First off. Second off, I don't think that a 15-year-old kid would have the gray matter to be able to, I don't know, guide a missile 656 miles. But hey, all these NASA engineers and military people just trusted a 15-year-old kid could do that. This makes total sense.
And I asked them, why are we landing in a dry lake bed in Nevada? And they said, just drop it there. And
how did he know it was a dry lake bed in Nevada just from coordinates in 1971? There was no Google Earth or anything. But again, don't let things like facts and logic get in the way of a good bullshit story you can spin for UFO dollars.
You can do that. So,
and you hear him? Oh, yeah, I can do that. I can drop that rocket 650 miles away at the exact coordinates you give me to make it land. Sure.
I fired a rocket, and it was a really success as far as engines go. Extremely fast. It was so fast you couldn't even see it leave. It's like, you ever try to watch a rifle bullet leave a barrel? That's how fast this engine was. So we landed we were exactly where they wanted it. Then we had to get on a
So he just says that he launched his experimental rocket he built at 15 years old that went 650 miles to the exact coordinates that the NASA and military people told him to make it land. Sure.
59 from White Sands and leave for the dry lake bed, which is called Groom Lake in Nevada.
Then they fly him into Area 51. A 15-year-old kid, they fly into the most secret military base on planet Earth. Sure. They flew him right in.
And I was asking them, y'all notice that these wheels on your plane, they're rubber tires and landing gears? We're going to bore more up to our belly in the dirt out there. So they said, don't worry about it. So we got on the plane, and when we got there, they were right. There were twin 10,000-foot runways there and hangars and a 42,000-acre Air Force base called Groom Lake. And it wasn't on any of the maps I was working with at the time.
Yeah, so in 1971, a bunch of NASA scientists, Curtis LeMay and a congressman, flew a 15-year-old child into the most secret military base on planet Earth. Okay.
So my rocket was down on the south end of the field at the end of the runways, and you can see the parachutes bellowing in the wind, and we landed and got out. And I was assuming we were going to go look at my rocket, right?
Now, this doesn't make any sense. He claims that they shot the rocket off 650 miles. He claims he shot the rocket off 650 miles from Area 51. And then they got in an airplane and flew 650 miles to Area 51. And right as they're landing at Area 51, they see his rocket coming down with parachutes. I thought it was fast. It would take you hours and hours and hours to fly 650 miles to Area 51 from Wright-Patterson. So your rocket was just what? Hovering for hours on end? This is the problem with these bullshit stories. Just apply a little bit of logic and the story falls apart. How the hell was he in the air for 3 or 4 hours flying to Area 51 if this rocket was so fast? It had instantaneous acceleration, but it took the rocket hours and hours and hours to get to Area 51. He literally raced it and just about beat it to landing at Area 51 in a conventional airplane. This makes no sense.
Then, no, we got in golf carts and rode to the center hangar, which was a very low, flat type hangar. But
does that make sense that they have golf carts at Area 51? Does anybody that actually worked at Area 51 ever see any golf carts, especially around 1971? I don't know.
Extremely large inside, size of about 4 football fields. So we pull in there and stop in these little golf carts. And we're just sitting there, and I'm going, well, that hangar is empty. I thought, this is interesting, you know. And then in a few minutes, little yellow and red lights came on flashing, and then out of the ground, or out of the floor, come these little rails with chains on them. They came up around all the doorways, and then the entire floor dropped out from under us. It's an elevator. We went down about 20 stories.
Whoa.
And
a secret elevator at Area 51, and it's 20 stories deep. Do you know what it would cost to build a 20-story underground base? I'm just saying, I don't know.
About this elevator is normally you have chains that drops these things. Huge worm screws were lowering the platform down, which allows it to carry extreme weight. When we got down there, there was a lot of various aircraft and workshops and offices and such that was off of the main bay, and then off the main.
This makes no sense either. Why would they put aircraft that they were working on 20 stories down in an underground base? But okay.
They were smaller, but still rather large work bays. And in the work bays, we went down to one that had something sitting in one of the big workshops. So we went and they opened the doors. We went inside, and the room was lit up like if you ever seen a car sitting in a paint booth. You have horizontal lights running the whole length of the room, and they arc like a rainbow all the way over. The reason being, like in a paint booth, it casts no shadows. So if you're spraying a car, if you see a run and your shadow's hiding it, you'll put a run in the car. So this was the same reason. It's a good laboratory to do it that way. That means that
yeah, you definitely need good lighting when you're working on an alien spaceship engine the size of a school bus.
Casting those shadows, so whatever you're working on, you can see it without being interfering with the light. And that was the first thing that's different about the room. They pulled the big covers off this thing, and it was interesting. It's an engine that's about the size of a school bus. And this engine is a pretty much much larger version of the thing I built. It's also electromagnetic fusion containment.
Okay, so the Air Force and NASA and Curtis LeMay and senators and congressmen contact this 15-year-old kid because he built a fusion reactor rocket engine. And then they tell him to shoot it 650 miles to Area 51. And then they get in a plane, but they don't beat the rocket to Area 51 landing. It didn't already land when they've gotten there. It was just landing. And then they take them 20 stories down to a deep underground base and show him an alien engine that is exactly the same design as his. What are the odds? Wow, what a great story.
Engine. But it is sophisticated and it is powerful. I would have to compare mine to it. Would be like I had a Model A and this thing was a Ferrari.
What if I...
Oh, sorry, 1 second. I did not post these separately. So just give me a second here to fast forward past the ads. You gotta love that this is all monetized. Bullshit is monetized. It's 2024. Monetize your curiosity, right? All right, back to the BS.
Tremendous, powerful difference, but we both were of the same engine breed, and this one had been damaged right in the center of the core. In the type of configurations we build, we have dual particle accelerators that...
Okay, so now we're expected to believe that a child built dual particle accelerators as a 15-year-old child in the 70s. According to him, you would need dual particle accelerators to make this engine work. So now we're supposed to believe that a 15-year-old kid created dual particle accelerators in his dad's mechanic shop. You know, at that time and date, it would take a team of 100 scientists and millions or more dollars to create a single particle accelerator. But we're supposed to believe that a 15-year-old kid created a dual particle accelerator. Sure.
It caused the fusion reaction right in that center of these accelerators is an area that I call the eye of the hurricane. And it's like an infinity pattern, figure 8, and right in the center. It's quiet there on a matter of conversion area. So then this particular engine was a hole there about 4 feet in diameter. That was the first thing I noticed. They asked me to look at it. And
yeah, so all these scientists and the best and brightest at the most secret base in the world couldn't figure this engine out. But they bring in science whiz kid, 15-year-old David Adair, who just so happened to build the exact same engine and put it on a model rocket previously. So they bring him to Area 51 to tell them how this engine works. They couldn't figure it out without this 15-year-old kid helping them.
And described to them how I thought the thing functioned. And I asked them, how come I'm telling you about your engine? And they said that the engine was recovered in a project they was working with, and they wasn't sure how everything functioned on it, and personnel that were available that work on that was not available anymore. And they said if I could just help them out a little bit. Well, being 17 years old at the time.
Oh, I'm sorry, not 15, 17. But again, during various retellings of the story, the names and the dates change, the age that he has changed. So he's 17 years old. I apologize, according to this retelling. But I could show you some other retellings where he said he was 15 at the time. But that's not really important. I think what's important is that the government didn't have any scientists that could help them. They needed a 17-year-old boy who builds rocket engines in his daddy's mechanic shop to tell them how this alien engine worked.
They thought I didn't pick up on too many adult innuendos, but I guess I was born old. I knew exactly what they were doing. So I said, fine, yeah, I'll be glad to help my country, Yeah. So we play along, and I asked them, can I walk up to it? They said, sure. As a matter of fact, you can climb on it if you want. So I got up to the end.
Sure. We don't know, anything about this alien engine, but we're going to bring a 17-year-old kid into a top secret base and just let him climb on it. Sure.
Engine. And then something really unusual about the engine, other than the design, the alloys itself, just the sheen and color, looked like iridescent color, like when you hold a CD disc to the sun and you see the rainbow. Imagine those kind of colors covering this entire engine and glowing like that. Really pretty. The color of the engine was unlike any metal or alloy I was ever familiar with. And when I walked to the engine, there was a shadow on the engine. Now, I just told you that the rooms were built where you couldn't have shadows. When I stuck my arm out to it, there was a shadow on the engine, but right on the table, there was no shadow. So it's not a light casting the shadow on the engine. The engine is picking up radiation off my body. So I back away from it, the shadow dissipates. When I walk back up, it's back on.
Yes, meaningless details are the hallmark of a UFO BSer. Who cares about this? This is sort of like, add some unnecessary details so you sound sincere, at least to me.
And so when I put my hands on the engine to pull myself up on it, that's where it's interesting, because the alloys in some places were so thin, it was translucent. You could see through it like a sheet of amber. So when I laid my hands on it, this really interesting swirl pattern would come off wherever my skin was touching, and they would swirl out through the metal, to the alloy.
You gotta love these cheesy recreations. This is some time ago.
I didn't know of any metal that could do that. So I thought, wow, this thing is heat sensitive. It's picking up my body heat waves like that. So when
why would a fusion reactor do that? He's saying that these engines are essentially fusion reactors, but okay.
And they were really neat looking, smooth type wave flows coming off my hands. So I pulled myself up on the engine and started walking over it, and It was huge. It was radically different than mine because it was just so much of a different design. And the way they ran the fusion flows and the way you would run fuel in a fuel line of an engine, this thing was totally different. There was no wiring. Now, my engine was covered with miles of wiring. So
He just said that his engine was covered with miles of wiring. Do you know how much space miles of wiring would take up? But we've seen some of his rockets, the biggest one being 10 foot tall. Even that wouldn't be enough to contain miles of wiring. But okay, again, facts and logic have no place, and real science. I mean, if you want to try to prove me wrong, go get yourself miles and miles of wiring and see what kind of space that takes up.
I could get all the firing orders right toward the cyclotrons, the particle accelerators.
Did you immediately know that it was alien at that time?
I suspected when I put my hands on it, it felt so different. It felt like a frog belly. If you ever, I don't know if people play with frog bellies, but I did. It looked wet, but it wasn't wet. It's just so slick looking, but it wasn't slick. And it was just amazing, but it also had such a texture. And as soon as you touched it, it was cold in the air-conditioned well in the facility, but the minute you touched the metal, it became your temperature instantly. I don't know of any alloys that can do that.
Okay.
So I started going, oh, this may not be from around here. So I'm walking down the engine and I go up to where the main core cells are and the particle accelerators. There's a hole blown out there, and I step down into it, just get a better look. Now, at this point of view, I'm down in a hole in the engine, and the walls are real smooth. They're so smooth.
Yeah, they just let a 17-year-old kid climb in an alien engine at Area 51. Sounds legit.
The blast, these temperatures like that engine of mine, they run at 100 million degrees centigrade. You work with...
Yes, so we're also supposed to believe that a 15 or 17-year-old child could create an engine that runs at a temperature that hot and still somehow contain the heat and the reaction from it.
Plasma physics. So when the field dropped down, this engine's metals were exposed to that kind of temperature, vaporized. But as soon as it vaporized at that particular point, fail-safe, it shut the engine off. All this probably occurred in a nanosecond, a billionth of a second. So the blast only irradiated out to about 4 feet in diameter and stopped. What was interesting is the way the engine's metal was, whenever there's torn places, you could rub your hands over the torn areas that are jagged, but they wouldn't cut you because they're so smooth. It's more like flesh being torn rather than metal. Well, when I come up, stood back on top of the engine.
This is just so stupid. I don't even know, you know. And I find it fascinating that this is this guy's core story that got him a 30-plus year career telling this story at UFO conventions, or at least a 20-plus year career.
I knew, looking at some of the interior parts of it and the way it was constructed, I had enough of what was going on. So I turned around and told them about this firing system here. And they were going, yeah, where is the firing system?
Yes, a bunch of NASA experts and government scientists can't figure out the firing system of this alien engine. But this underage science whiz kid that builds rockets in his backyard, he knows all about this alien engine.
And I started to tell him that because I finally figured out what this thing was doing. But then I said, well, why am I telling you about your own firing system if all this is yours? And you got, this isn't from here, is it? Matter of fact, it ain't from around the area, is it, boys? And they started getting upset. I said, let's do some assumptions. This is an engine. I'm assuming it came out of a craft, a big one, by the size proportional differences, probably 300 feet plus, you know, the length of a football field. Well, therefore, it's got occupants. What in God's name you done with them? Well,
oh, you got to bring the aliens in. What happened to the aliens when you got this engine?
Oh, that was the wrong thing to say, because they are up on the engine coming after me, and it's time to leave. Well, when I bend down to get off the engine, I put my hands back on the engine. Something interesting. Instead of the nice smooth wave lines, they would now look like small tornadoes coming off all my fingertips, moving through the metal.
Again with the
I pulled my
cheesy
hand back, came back
recreation.
on. There they were, but they were starting to calm down a little bit.
Oh, sorry. 1 second. Let me get past the commercials again. You got to monetize your curiosity here, of course. Wonderful that and you know what? I just wanted to mention that this video is one of many copies of this, but this one's got 40,000 views. 40,000 people tuned in to hear this nonsense. Evidence-free UFO fairy tales. It's wonderful. We don't have much further to go. I wanted to be sure to start tonight's presentation with this because this is the core of his claims.
What this thing was.
They get wackier after this.
They grabbed hold of me, the Air Force guys did. We got back in the golf cart and we were riding back up to the surface. And I was sitting there thinking, I just realized what this engine is. It's a symbiotic engine. The engine is alive. It is an engine that's capable. The reason they couldn't figure out the firing order is that
the engine's alive.
Cascading all over its body. Look like the same pattern you would have from a brainstem of a neurosynaptic ordering firing order. So what's happening is when the pilot...
Yeah, and a 17-year-old kid knows exactly what a neurosynaptic firing order in a human brain looks like.
Let's sit down their seats. Their thought waves drive the engine. When I first touched the engine, I was curious and awed by it. The wavelengths were smooth off my fingers. When I was getting down from it, I was totally angry. The engine was not picking up radiation heat waves. It was picking up mental thought energy. That engine is capable of a symbiotic relationship with the pilot.
Did you tell them that?
I didn't tell them squat. That's why they couldn't figure out the firing order. They said there was no wiring or circuitry. No, the pilot's brains are the wiring and the circuitry.
Oh, great story. No
the engine
evidence.
Needs them in order to do all of its functions. In return, the pilots know exactly what the engine feels and how the spacecraft feels. The entire craft is probably symbiotic. Now, before you sit there and blow this off like it's just a bunch of science fiction, let me bring you up to date here to current events.
Oh, yeah, this is definitely real because I found some real-world examples of people controlling things with mental energy.
I just left Princeton University.
Disapprover maneuver.
There's a Dr. John up there, Robert John, and he runs the Pear Research Institute. They have a contract from McDonnell Douglas, you ever heard of them? Small aerospace company, to build mental shielding for firing systems on the new F-22 fighters. So people go, what's that got to do with anything? Pilot comes home at night, catches his wife in bed with another man. He's having a bad day. He's now got to go fight a fighter that is so sensitive. When he straps on his helmet, just like the Apache helicopter, you turn your head this way, the gun mounts follow your head. This firing system now links to your brain. Foxfire, Clint Eastwood. Where do you think the Hollywood's getting their ideas? McDonnell Douglas is under construction.
Yeah, this is another one of those nonsensical things that's impossible to verify.
Building a symbiotic relationship firing control system. Where did they get their idea? I wonder. Could have been back in June 1971, and God knows how long they've had this engine. However, it's reality. We have symbiotic engines in aeronautics. We're moving into that area right now.
No, we don't. We may be moving into that area, but there's no such thing as a symbiotic aircraft engine.
The F-22 and beyond with our future fighters. So, which is science fiction, which is science fact? Where does it start and end? You can't tell anymore. When we got back up to the surface on the golf carts, there was another problem developing. I already knew that if they could hold this kind of information back, there's a lot of other things going to happen. I also knew my rocket was gone because I built it under a federal grant. They're going to take the rocket. Well, that bothered me enough, but the other problem was something they were talking about that while I was standing there being a child, they're not paying attention. And that's when I first heard the terms first strike. And I'm going, what is first strike? And then,
oh, yes. So in order to make himself more of the hero of the story, David Adair decides that he's not going to let the government have his incredible technology that they could turn into weapons systems, even though, according to him, they gave him a grant to build it and they own it, right? But he's going to be a big hero here.
And I started thinking about it. That's June 1971. We're in the throes of Vietnam War. We're in the pitched battles. Wasn't long after My Lai had occurred. We just bombed the dickens out of Cambodia because the Soviets were supplying weapons to the north. We want to do surgical nuclear strikes. General Westmoreland did, and the Soviets said, "You fire one of those off, and we'll go to global thermonuclear war." The only reason we didn't attack each other was MAD, M-A-D, mutual assured destruction. So the only way to win MAD is first strike. Whoever gets there first wins. My rocket engine out there went from 0 to 8,654 miles an hour in 4.1 seconds. It's fast.
Remember, earlier he said 3,500 miles an hour. Now he's saying that his engine did 8,600 miles per hour. He can't even get his own figures straight. That's a problem. And again, why anybody interviewing him doesn't stop him and say, well, you said it was 3,500 miles an hour. Now you're saying it went 8,600 miles per hour. And if the engine went 8,600 miles per hour, how did they beat it there with a standard conventional airplane flying 650 miles to Area 51? If it was doing 8,600 miles an hour, it would have been there a lot quicker than an airplane ride. But don't let things like facts and logic get in the way of a good fake alien story that you can make a career out of telling stupid people.
It's the thing ever. So if you take that type of engine containment system and put it on nuclear warheads and put them on on your own subs, park it off Siberia, the Soviets would never see but flashes of light, and that's it. They wouldn't even have time to move out of their chairs. No retaliation. So if you take out the Soviet Union, you wouldn't destroy the whole country. You would take out all the key military sites and the major cities, and they would surrender.
Now he's a geopolitical expert.
You'll have to hit another country same day, called China. They have nuclear weapons, and they're not going to stand there and watch us take out the other superpower. So about 1 billion people are going to die in a single day. So I'm sitting there going, all because of my engine? Unbelievable. So I scooped up a hand of...
Yes, and again, making himself the hero of the story. The United States government and all the people at NASA and White Sands and Lockheed Martin and all of these incredible experts weren't able to develop this engine, but he did as a 15-year-old child. And the government needed him so that they could win an eventual nuclear war with Russia and China. Boy, sounds like Mr. Adair is very important. At 17 years old, he's invented this engine that the United States government needs to win a nuclear war with our adversaries. Boy, is David Adair important, right?
Full of graphite grease off of the hangar door there, the wheels, and started crying. And I said, I want to see my rocket. So they thought, just a kid, take him out to see his rocket. I want to see what it at least looked like. So when went out there with the 2 sergeants on the golf cart, we got out there. I walked over to it and opened the hatch, opened the particle accelerators, put the graphite grease, just smeared it on the doors inside and closed it.
So apparently graphite grease can stop a fusion reaction somehow. It's getting a little thick in here, friends.
When you turn on particle accelerators and the fuel is using deuterium, ask any physicist what happens when deuterium meets graphite.
Okay, so he's saying that his rocket engine had deuterium as a fuel source. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, and by the way, deuterium is a stable isotope of hydrogen. But unlike normal hydrogen atoms, or protium also contains a neuron. The isotope deuterium was 1 proton, 1 neutron, and 1 electron. So where did he get deuterium in 1971 as a 15 or 17-year-old child? It's also known as heavy hydrogen. Where did he get that? I guess you could synthesize it if you have a particle accelerator, which he claims that he has. And deuterium does occur in trace amounts in deuterium gas, or naturally occurring deuterium atoms in the universe are bonded with a typical hydrogen atom to form a gas called hydrogen deuteride. Where does a 15 or 17-year-old kid get hydrogen deuteride gas in 1971? I'm sorry, I'm calling bullshit on this claim. This is the problem with these storytellers and the people who interview them. Just pure logic, it'd be pretty difficult for a 15 or 17-year-old kid to get a hold of what could only be considered in 1971 to be a pretty exotic element. But he did it, right? Just like he did all these other incredible things. Sure.
It's pretty bad. It's a major reaction explosion. So I turned on the particle accelerators, no fuel involved, and I told the two sergeants, it's got a fuel leak, we got to run for it. So we get on a golf cart and take off. I gave it 60 seconds on a time delay. When you engage it.
How did he give it 60 seconds on a time delay? Just by smearing grease on this thing. It's so stupid, right? And it's basically a fusion reactor, but you can run away from it if you give yourself 60 seconds somehow.
It exploded. It blew a whole size of a football field out there. There's nothing left. Now they have no rocket. Now they have nothing to work with, but they got this kid. So I was told I'm going nowhere for the rest of my life, and it was scary. They threw me in a room and kept me there for about 10 hours.
Where was his parents while he was getting kidnapped to Area 51 and having these great adventures in the secret, shadowy world of dark projects, right? I guess everybody's parents just let them be kidnapped to Area 51.
And
sure.
Then a lot of noise in the outside, door opens up, and there's this big stogie chomping figure in the doorway going like that, and his name is Curtis LeMay. Oh,
and Curtis LeMay was there to witness this incredible historic event of a 17-year-old child who has a fusion reactor-based rocket with dual particle accelerators and deuterium as the fuel source. Sounds legit. And Curtis LeMay was there, the originator of the Strategic Air Command, right? And in so many of David Adair's stories, he places himself at the center of all of these incredible historical figures, right? Incredible.
So he came there and got me and took me all the way back home to Wright-Patterson. He took me back home to my parents. He told me that they're not going to be through with you. They'll deal with you again. And he was right. So that was the end of my summer vacation.
Sure. 4-star generals always hang out with 17-year-old science whiz kids and take them home to their parents after their adventure at Area 51 concludes.
In my junior year in high school, how I spent my summer vacation. And
what did he say to your parents?
Well, my parent, LeMay just told, he didn't say anything to my parents. He said he left it up to me. He just got me home. So it's quiet through the winter and the spring, and I'm graduating from high school. It's June 10th, 1972, and I'm ready to go to Ohio State. All of a sudden, I'm shaking hands in line, and I get hold of this one line, and I turn around, and I got hold of this guy's hand, and it is a DOD agent from Groom Lake, right there in Sandburg, Ohio. And he slaps this paper in my hand. I read it. It says, "Greetings, I'm drafted," and they throw me in a car. My parents.
Sure, they always draft 17-year-old kids to go work on secret projects that don't have any college education or, real experience in science other than building rockets in his backyard. Sure.
They're hollering and nothing they can do because I'm now property of the United States government. It's called conscription, buddy, and you're gone. So after about 3 hours, I'm back. I was on a plane. Ended up at Langley, Virginia, home of the CIA and more fun activity.
Oh, he's such an important guy. They're flying him to Area 51. They're flying him to Langley to go meet with CIA people because he's so important, this guy.
So what they wanted was the engine to be rebuilt again. And we had to work out some compromises. I ended up spending 10 years in the Navy. I never did build the engine again. That was the last thing Curtis LeMay told me to do. To never build another rocket as long as you live. You might make it out of here. And he was right. So instead, I agreed to build jet engines.
There's no verifiable evidence or proof that David Adair has ever worked on or built a jet engine. More claims with zero evidence and zero proof.
So I was a jet engine designer and technician in the Navy.
He was a jet engine designer technician in the Navy. Can somebody show me another person in the Navy who designs jet engines?
And worked on the Tomcat and the E-2C Hawkeyes and other various aircrafts. And
again, the Navy did not develop those aircraft. They bought them from private industry. So there's a huge problem with some of his claims here. But this is about the gist of his claims. And then after this, it gets into all of his incredible science accomplishments, which there is no record whatsoever for. There's no patents. There's no articles in scientific journals about his amazing inventions and discoveries. That award that he claims to have won from the Air Force, there's no record of it other than his claim. You can't find another person who won that award. I guess they just invented an engineering excellence award and gave it to this kid, and they never gave it out again. The only reference to that award is sites pushing David Adair's fake stories for cash. So it's great. But lately, Mr. Adair has basically gone full wackadoo. By the way, if you want to listen to the rest of that ridiculous story, there's more on that. But we're going to go to one of his most recent interviews with none other than Michael Salla. And you got to remember that this person has basically, what can I say? He's made the rounds, and every, I would say, disinformation or misinformation UFO celebrity has used Adair. From people like Gaia TV, Emery Smith, Kerry Cassidy of Project Scam-A-Lot, and of course Michael Salla, the guy who tells us all about the international, or the interstellar battles that are going on right now. Michael Salla is a garbage peddler. Just going to put that out there. And if it's something from Michael Salla, it's fake. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. But Mr. Adair has basically gone full wackadoo, and his claims are getting stupider and stupider. But just to review, the claims that he makes are so ridiculous. We're going to start with his claims of buying space shuttles because a rich person gave him all kinds of money and said that he should start a competing space agency with NASA. Here he is talking at a conference in England to thousands and thousands of people.
I'm getting an orbiter for $6 billion a piece. Damn, that's some kind of solar special. So I will order the new fleet, and these are not like the shuttles you saw of NASA. On every orbiter, there are 30,200 thermal tiles, and no two are alike, and we glue them onto the shuttle. No, my new shuttles will have a thermal blanket. The thermal blankets were perfected over the two hump where the shuttle engines are.
Yeah, so this guy with no lab, no proven education in aeronautics or design, he's going to do better than Rockwell International did and actually improve the space shuttle design after he buys them from Rockwell, who's no longer making or manufacturing them.
Remember the two round humps by the big tall fin, and there's a hump on each side? Well, look at the way the surface of it. That's a thermal blanket. I'll put that over the entire shuttle. No more thermal tile problems, which caused Challenger and Columbia to burn up.
If it was so easy to do that, why wouldn't NASA have done that?
And neither one of them should have happened. It wasn't a technical failure. It was a management failure. That's another thing. You have never seen any leadership in any type of space program on this planet. And you've
Oh no, he's much smarter than everybody at NASA, sure.
seen very little leadership in any of the damn countries with the governments. In my world, it's going to be a different world, y'all. I'm going to look like Dr. No from James Bond down there with my own island. So I'm not, back to that guy. I don't need no stinking badges. I'll just go on and build the stuff. If I got that kind of funding.
And this is a video from over 2 years ago in which he claimed that he was offered billions of dollars from investors to create a space agency to rival NASA. And his first planned thing was to buy 6 space shuttles from Rockwell International, even though they're no longer making space shuttles, and they haven't for decades. And then he's going to improve them. And somebody's offering him $36 billion to do this. It's been 2 years. I haven't seen him flying a space shuttle yet. No, there is no records. There is no media coverage of his new space agency. Instead, he's running around working small, tiny UFO conferences for $150. And by the way, I have that from a confirmed source who worked for one of those tiny UFO conventions out in the middle of the Midwest in a small town that was only attended by 300-400 people, a few hundred people. But I was told that he did his speech for $150. So I just want to ask everybody within the sound of my voice, if somebody's offering you billions of dollars to go buy 6 space shuttles, why would you be working a tiny little UFO convention for $150? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But again, you can't let things like logic and common sense get in the way of good UFO fairy tales. But lately, his BS, it's like the longer these guys are at it, and by the way, look at him. Does this look like Earth's science savior to you? And I hate to even comment on his appearance, but Jesus Christ, right? It's amazing, and he's getting worse and worse with the pathological lies. We'll take a sample of this. Again, we're citing fair use. This video is in the description of the video in case you want to watch the whole thing. It's a laugh riot.
I'm a father of Curtis. So Curtis has to go through my mother to see his dad.
So not only did he meet, this is where it gets stupid. Not only did he meet Curtis LeMay at Area 51 as an original story, but his mother was a nurse at a hospital who took care of Curtis LeMay's dying father, and he met Curtis LeMay at the hospital while his mother was taking care of Curtis LeMay's dying father. Wouldn't you mention that when you told your story the first time? Like, oh, I met Curtis LeMay at Area 51, and coincidentally, my mother took care of his dying father at a hospital, and I met him at the hospital before I met him at Area 51. Of course not. This is a new add-on to the story, never told before.
He gets to know my mother on purpose. And then he finally asked her after several...
Or did he forget his original story of how he originally met Curtis LeMay? Now he met Curtis LeMay as his mother was taking care of Curtis LeMay's dying father in a hospital.
Visits, he said, "You got any children?" And she goes, "Yeah, I got 3 boys. 2 of them are okay. The third one, we got to watch him. He's strange." He goes, "How's he strange?" "He's always blowing up stuff." And LeMay goes, "What's he blow up?" "Rockets." And that catches his attention. He goes, "He's doing what? He's blowing them up. He's launching them?" "Yeah, he launches them out in cow fields, and they go clear out. It's like they go 10 miles up." And he goes, "What?" He said, "What's he doing it for?" And my mother said, "I have no clue why he's doing this." And then LeMay said, "Does he have a big book he writes things down in?" "Yeah, got a big notebook." "Could you bring that notebook up here one night?"
Yeah, Curtis LeMay, a 4-star general, wants to see the lab notes from a 15 or 17-year-old child that's building rockets and launching them out in the cow pastures. Sounds completely reasonable that a 4-star general would be so interested in the technological advancements he could get from a 15-year-old child building rockets out in cow fields that he would ask for his notebook. Sure.
He goes to bed at 11 o'clock so he can go to school the next day. "Yeah, I can bring the book up here and let you see it and get it back for you go to school." And she did just that. Well, LeMay's looking at my book, and he's turns to my mother and says, "You got a copier?" Well, he copies. Thank God he only copied about 1/3 of it.
Oh, yeah. A 4-star general was so impressed by 15-year-old or 17-year-old, whatever, child science meanderings in his notebook that he had to copy it so that because this kid's scientific discoveries were so important to national security to a 4-star general. Come on. And I think he literally forgot how he met Curtis LeMay in his first version of his whole story. And this is an add-on or a tack-on, right? So before Area 51, you met him at a hospital and he got your notebook. It's so stupid and childish, right? He can't even keep his lies straight.
And so he takes a handful of copies and he goes to his, right next to his alma mater, Ohio State University. And he goes to this big group called Battelle Memorial Institute. Battelle is a giant think tank.
Yes, the best and brightest scientists in the United States are part of Battelle Research Institute. So, hey, if you want credibility, all you have to do is say, Battelle Institute was so impressed with my scientific discoveries in my 15-year-old notebook from school that they had meetings about it at Battelle Institute, where all the best and brightest physicists, aeronautics engineers, chemists, material scientists are all part of Battelle Institute. They were all blown away by this child's science experiment notebook from his high school.
It's a competitor of RAND. They, in 1968, they had 130 Nobel laureates on staff. Not too bad. Everything from thermonuclear physics to, you name it, aeronautics.
Yes, but all of those incredibly prestigious, well-accomplished, well-educated scientists needed the help of a 15-year-old kid's notebook.
So LeMay knows people there, obviously, and he turns papers over and he said, is this just a bunch of gibberish or is this of anything worth? Well, they take a look at it and they go, where is this person that's doing this? He said, it's just a high school kid out there shooting rockets off in cow fields. Is it something important? And they said, yeah, he's closing in on fusion containment. And he goes, LeMay goes, what's that?
Yeah, so all those prestigious scientists couldn't create the engine that he claims to have created as a 15-year-old child with a dual particle accelerator fusion containment system powered by deuterium, and at the time, pretty exotic, hard to come across element.
He's trying to contain a nuclear chain reaction, an H-bomb. And LeMay said, well, that's insane. Nothing can hold a H-bomb in a container. In this container, he can, because the electromagnetic fields are similar to black holes.
Oh, sure. All you need to contain a nuclear explosion or reaction is just some magnetic fields. If that were true, then every scientist on Earth would have already created a fusion reactor engine, and nobody has. Funny that.
And LeMay said, well, what's that mean? Black holes swallow suns out in space. Whole, complete, gone, never to be seen again. And what is the sun? It's hundreds of millions of H-bombs going off continuously, simultaneously. And a black hole comes in, sucks it up, and it's gone. So he is onto something.
So now he created a black hole as well, an artificially created black hole. Okay.
And LeMay said, you're kidding, really? He said, we'd like to send these papers on to another place. We'd like to send it to a young guy who just graduated at Cambridge, England. He's sitting in Newton's chair.
Now we get into the Stephen Hawking lies. Stephen Hawking gets sent his high school notebook with his science experiment notes in it, and is completely and totally impressed. Stephen Hawking is.
And he would love to look at this because it's in the similar work of his. So LeMay said, sure, send it. So they mail my stuff is being mailed across the ocean, snail mail. The guy looks at it, he calls back and says, where is this person? He's in the local cow fields launching rockets. And they went, make an arrangement for me to meet him.
And here's where the pathological lies come in. There's no proof that Stephen Hawking visited Ohio State University at the time that he claims to meet him there. But again, don't let things like facts, history, or evidence get in the way of a good UFO fairy tale you could sell for decades.
I'm going to come there anyhow for Ohio State, and I got to work at Battelle. So I'll be at Ohio State University having him meet me there. So all this stuff's going on. And now my high school professor comes to me and he says, I got somebody I want you to meet over at my alma mater at Ohio State University. I said, okay.
His high school professor? I didn't know they had professors in high school. They have people with 4-year degrees, but okay.
I don't know. So we get in the car the next day. We drive to Ohio State University. And we go in the university. And I remember, hot as heck outside. You get in these buildings, and they're so big, they're naturally cool anyhow. But they're too big to have air conditioning.
Again, pointless details.
But you walk on the floors, and it's old wooden planks that squeak and bubble. And in the doors is all this milk glass with chicken wire. This is old school stuff.
Yeah, and I love how they just show an old picture of Stephen Hawking. Why don't they have a picture of Stephen Hawking with David Adair? Funny that.
And I went, dang, this place is kind of old, isn't it? So I walk we open this door, and there's an amphitheater. And way down at the bottom is this tiny desk, which actually is a big desk, but they're a long ways away. And there's a little guy sitting at the desk. And I'm looking at the blackboard. It's got stuff written all the way around it, all the way around the room, around the entire theater. So I'm reading it, and I said, who's messing with my math? And a little guy down there, he will stand up and says, your math indeed. And I went, so I kept reading. When I got up to here, I went,
yes. So Stephen Hawking was so impressed with his high school yearbook that he had transcribed his math equations all over the blackboard. Yeah, sure. You know, and again, there's zero evidence of this. Zero evidence of this. But again, don't let things like facts and evidence get in the way of a good story you can sell.
oh, you're looking for unified theory. I said, good luck with that. God almighty, I can't imagine somebody tackling a thing where they want to explain everything all at once with everything. And that's what unified theory is. You know, Einstein went probably crazy trying to figure it out and killed over. And this guy obviously is on the same track, and I'm going, so I ran around the room. When I got back down to where he was, I went, and that down there is not going to work. He goes, how do you know? I've tried it. So I went down there, I erased it, and he said, wait a minute. I said, hold on a minute, try this. So I wrote this out.
And here's where it gets ridiculous. So basically, Stephen Hawking was having trouble doing the math equations, but David Adair at, what is he, 15 or 17, depending on when he's telling the story, he gets tripped up himself. A 15 or 17-year-old high school child with no college, education has to help Stephen Hawking with his math equations. Okay, that really sounds credible and plausible, doesn't it? Stephen Hawking needed a 17-year-old child or 15-year-old child to help him with math equations.
And he's reading it, and he looks at me, and he says, how did you validate that? I said, rocket engine. And then the next question told me how smart he was. He said, well, how'd you contain the fields? And I said, I can't. I don't have enough smarts for that. I don't know how to close the fields. Okay,
so this had to be when he was 15 years old, right? Or 16 or whatever. It doesn't really matter how old he is at the time. It's the ridiculousness of this high school kid is so smart that four-star General Curtis LeMay got a hold of his notebook and was so impressed that he took it to the Battelle Institute, and they said, you got to send this work to Stephen Hawking. He would be impressed by this. And then Stephen Hawking flies all the way over from England to meet this whiz kid so that he could get help with math equations from this child whiz kid who apparently is on his way to developing fusion technology and building his own dual particle accelerators with deuterium.
They just run onto an endless loop. And he said, oh. And I said, you know anybody knows how to fix that? And he says, no, I don't. So I said, well, I'm going to go. So I start to leave. He said, wait a minute. Where do you get all your ideas from? I said, they're coming through dreams. Now I'm walking away. And he says, where are you going now? Well, you don't want to talk to some idiot that dreams this crap and builds this stuff. And he said, I get the same kind of dreams. Yeah, I do want to talk to you. Sit down. Hi, my name is Stephen Hawkins.
So this is Stephen Hawking, the famous.
Right, I always call him Stephen, but Stephen Hawkins.
Right.
He
Stephen,
was in the Cambridge University. He was in Newton's chair.
yeah, Stephen Hawking is so impressed by this child that he flies all the way from England to meet him so that he can help him with some math equations he's having trouble with. Sure.
He was 19 when I met him.
And you were how old at that time? Was it 66?
Oh, me, I was only like 12 or 13.
Oh, 12 or 13.
1966 you met him.
Yeah,
He's 12 or 13 years old when he meets Stephen Hawking.
But he could walk and talk. He's very frail, had a cane, but he wasn't messed
Stephen Hawking needed the help of a 12 or 13-year-old child to do math.
up like we all knew him today. He was fun to talk to. I had a really good time talking to him. And after we met then, we talked for years and years afterwards. And
How is he talking to Stephen Hawking? Does he have some letters he could share to prove that he met Stephen Hawking at 12 or 13 years old? Does he have some documents, anything, pictures? If you're going to meet listen, if you're a kid and you're into science and you meet a famous scientist from England, you're going to take a picture with him, but there's no pictures. So.
And he was having similar experiences to you, having these dreams. And
yeah, he was being bugged like I was. Like something's trying to tell him something, but like me, I don't get it. We both looked at each other and thought, we're probably two of the dumbest, smartest people we ever met. I said, yeah, I sure feel that way.
Yeah, and like I think this is a terrible plot device, but throughout most of Mr. Adair's stories, he puts himself up there with the greatest scientists on Earth. Does this look like one of the greatest scientists on Earth? A man with no patents, no published scientific papers, no media coverage for all of his claimed inventions that he can't prove exist. Who also worked for NASA, worked on F-16s and F-18s to design them, even though the Navy had nothing to do with that, is getting offered billions of dollars to start competing space agency with NASA, is building thorium reactors, right? And being offered huge labs in the Middle East to develop nuclear technology. By the way, wouldn't that be considered an act of terrorism, helping a Middle East country, if they were an adversary to us, develop nuclear technology? But he's claiming that in his public talks. It's so ridiculous.
Because I don't get it when I'm supposed to. And he's pointing to all the boards and says, well, I'm not getting much further. But I really liked the guy. He just was a nice man. Smart. God almighty, he's smart.
But Adair was smarter.
Would rib you all the time. If he could take a barb and get at you, he would. He'd never miss a chance. Quick wit, like an Alan Alda type person.
He's known for being more a theoretical physicist, but you were doing practical physics.
Yeah, that's what we thought was interesting with each other, because I always said, well, you think it up, I'll pull out the toolbox, I'll build it.
Yes, David Adair is so smart that he'll be able to build stuff that Stephen Hawking comes up with. But these are the various claims that Adair has made, always placing himself, like I said, he's like the Forrest Gump of UFOs. He just so happens that he runs into Stephen Hawking, who's so impressed with his science work at the age of 12 and 13 that he flies over here to Kent State University from England. By the way, I checked. There's no record of a visit of Stephen Hawking to Kent State University in that time frame. So I think we can pretty clearly call this part of David Adair's UFO fairy tales.
And that really was quite accurate. I was on the applied side. He was on the theoretical side. But he had some problems with his math. I helped him with that.
Did you hear that? David Adair just said that Stephen Hawking had some problems with math. And at 12 or 13 years old, he helped Stephen Hawking with his math. He helped Stephen Hawking as a 12-year-old child with his math. Stephen Hawking needed 12-year-old David Adair to help him with some math problems.
And I remember one person said, wait a minute, you got a phone call from Hawkins and you're helping him with his math? Who the hell are you? You know, a freak of nature, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, you know what, when he was young, they didn't have a lot of money. And when they went to the beach, he said, we went to the beach in a wagon. Well, we had a
listen to this nonsense.
1955 DeSoto station wagon. So I was thinking station wagon. No, he said, back up a little further, David. Put a horse on a gypsy cart. That's the wagon. I went, really? Oh, how cool. So you went to the beach when you were a kid in a gypsy wagon? He said, yeah. Now
so over the years, you would communicate with Stephen Hawking by phone, not letters or anything?
No, we would do it by phone. And then he got to where he couldn't use his arms much.
I'm going to call bullshit on that as well, because anybody remember when you actually had to pay for long distance? You know what a call to England cost? And we're just supposed to believe that David Adair's parents just let him call England whenever he wanted. Or maybe David Adair called him, but still, awfully expensive long-distance phone call from England to the United States. And again, he just admits that he has no letters or any proof of this. Oh, no, I talked to him on the phone a lot.
And that's why I told him about the page turner we made for astronauts. And then his voice box went.
All right, I think we've seen enough of that. But the claims keep coming, because not only did Stephen Hawking need David Adair's help as a 12-year-old child to do math, David Adair also claims that, let me see if I'm going to get this right. We're going to go through it, but essentially a group of farmers bought a brand new airplane when he was 15 years old, and they needed a pilot. So he just said, I can fly it. And a bunch of farmers who just bought a brand new airplane to do crop dusting with just let a 15-year-old get in a brand new airplane and go on some adventures. It sounds totally plausible, right? Ridiculous. Like, at some point, you just say, this is so stupid, I can't stop listening. That's what happens to me. I go, what stupid shit is this guy going to say next? It's so stupid. Let's get into some more stupid claims from David Adair.
4 squares. I have all 4 farms for a landing area. That's significant. They dug a earth pit big enough where I could drive a car in and out of it. Well, I could run my station wagon, run the big rockets down in there, set them up. The cows got to know me really well. They had...
Yeah, so he's talking about how he used to launch rockets out on farms. And I'm entirely willing to accept that as a child, he built model rockets, because on my word of honor, and members of my family today that remember this will attest to the fact I'm being honest here. I built a bunch of model rockets with what's called rocket candy engines. Long story short, it's stump remover and a few other things you can make rocket engines out of. And instead of going to the hobby store or toy store and buying an engine for like $6, I learned to make my own. I'm perfectly willing to accept that maybe David Adair built some model rockets as a child, but everything else on top of this it just gets to the point of ridiculousness. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention, so we'll thank some of you kind and generous benefactors. For those unaware, we read every single super chat, so get them in, folks. High Speed Chase, thanks for being a member, says, it sounds like some Wookiee spanker crap to me. I can't say I disagree. Thank you, High Speed Chase. Chris Damaris says $10 for everyone if they admit Wookiee spanker is already played out. Yeah, maybe. But thank you for a kind and generous $9.99 super chat. Longtime show supporter Chris Demarius. Thank you very much. High Speed Chase with another one for $5 says, too many Wookiee spanking wackadoos out there, Stephen. Can't say I disagree. Thank you. And thanks for being a member. Another one for $2. I wish people were more real. Another one for $2. Wookiee spanker will never be played out. We want to thank Montauk J.O., who's been a member for 1 month. And he says, I ordered Bob Lazar off of Wish, but ended up with David Adair. This story is even dumber than Bob Lazar's, isn't it? Isn't it? And it's interesting that David Adair started telling his story after Bob Lazar did, right? Legal Eagle became a YouTube member. For those unaware, if you become a YouTube channel member during a live broadcast, we give you a shout out and a thank you. I want to thank all of you kind and generous super chatters. We read every single one. Thank you all for helping us to praise the cash.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right. And we're going to continue because this is just another one of those stupid stories. It just gets so ridiculous.
Angus cows, beef. And they would be chewing their cuds.
Oh, this is great too. He tells a story in this section that he blew up a cow in the cow pasture field that he was shooting his rockets off in. So the farmers made him butcher the cow, and then they let him keep the meat. Great.
And they'd walk up to the edge of the pit and see me working down there. And then when I come walking up the pit, they would all turn around, back up, and wait for a rocket to come out of the pit. If they see me running out of the pit, they all turned and ran off because something's going to blow up. So we all got to know each other. And I got to know all the cows. I liked all the cows. So everything was fine and hunky-dory until I decided to do something called staging. First stage, second stage. Staging is so difficult in rocketry.
It's not that difficult. But what do I know?
It took NASA 40 years to figure it out. Russia never did. China figured it out by itself in a year. Watch out for the Chinese. So my first staging rocket, it came out of the pit. First stage burning.
Again, David Adair is so smart that he was able to develop multi-stage rockets before NASA and the Chinese and the Russians were. You see a common theme with this guy is that he's smarter than everyone on Earth, first of all. And he's got more technical know-how than anybody on Earth, even though he can't show a shit, right? It's just so childish and so stupid at some point.
To the event horizon, even with the hole in the pit. And then for some reason, the damn second stage engaged, blew the first stage back down into the pit. It exploded. Fireball came back up, all in split seconds, turned the second stage sideways, and it takes off toward the herd of cattle. And it looks like a torpedo heading for a damn battleship. I thought, oh my God, it's skipping across the ground. And I thought, God, please stop it. And it hits a bump and it noses into the ground and it's vibrating. You're trying to drive it. Tanks rupture. It explodes. It's cryogenic. So it goes up 15 feet. Then
he had cryogenic technology. Did you hear that? It was cryogenic. A 15-year-old kid developed cryogenic technology that he put in his model rockets he was shooting off in a cow pasture. Sure. Okay. All right, David Adair. I think David Adair better take his meds or something.
Hydrogen detonates. And it's a giant fireball. And I'm looking at the cows underneath it, and they're all looking up like this, and they got eyes this big. They know this is not normal. So they all do an about face, and they stampede. Well, that's not the problem. The problem is on the far side is another cow looking in the other direction, don't see any of this shit. And she doesn't move. They stampede over her ass, stomp her into the ground. I go run over there.
Oh, who would have known? It's not just Linda Moulton Howe that's killing cows and telling alien stories. It's David Adair. Here he admits he killed a cow.
And she's dead. She's busted all up. And the farmers are coming from all four directions with equipment. Oh, God damn, they're going to see this dead cow. I caused it to get killed. I'm going to lose my launch pit, everything. And they got up to me, you okay? I said, yeah, we've had a mishap with the staging of the rockets. And I'm okay, but your cow's not. Didn't see the stampede coming. They looked at it and went, damn, that's a dead cow. It was fucked up. Side busted open. I mean,
That cow was.
It's 90.
That cow was fucked up, man. I fucked up that cow with my rocket engine.
To the barns or to the slaughterhouse. I said, what are you going to do? And they said, meet us over at the barn. So I go over to the barn. I thought, they're going to throw me off this damn property. So they hang that cow up by its neck with a chain. And it's
I agree,
like
JJ.
this, with front legs out. And they tell me, David, you're going to have to dress this cow. And I'm standing there going, what is wrong with y'all? Why would I want to put a dress on this cow? They all explode. One guy's on his knees laughing so hard. And I hear behind me, ring, ring, ring. They give me this saw.
Jesus Christ, this story's so stupid. So just to review, he blows up a cow with his rocket engine that had cryogenics and deuterium in it, or was it hydrogen? I don't know. And he blew up a cow, or no, he had a rocket fail, and then cow stampeded and killed the cow. But the farmers are like, no, it'll be fine. You just need to butcher the cow since you caused it to die.
And I cut from here all the way down to its asshole and all of its intestines.
He cut the cow from here to its asshole. Just this is so stupid. Why are we listening to this guy?
Since the stomach comes four stomachs. Because unfortunately, this wasn't even an Angus cow. It was a dairy cow. So they said, I said, you got any charts? They had some excellent beef charts.
Yes. So here's another one of those. I'm so great. David Adair, at 15 years old or whatever he claims to have been during this story, is so smart. He's never butchered a cow, but they just gave him a chart, and then he did an incredible, excellent job butchering this cow that he caused to die with his super secret space engine.
So I cut this cow all up. The wives were out there wrapping the paper, and something they noticed. Said, do you notice him cutting? Yeah. He looks like a surgeon. He goes, his cut marks us just like a laser.
Yeah, he butchered that cow better than anybody could, and that was the first time he did it. He's so smart. He's such a hero. That's the theme of every David Adair story. Self-aggrandizement, self-importance, bloated sense of self-importance, bloated sense of historical significance, scientific significance. That's David Adair in a nutshell. He's a big hero in his own goddamn imaginary world.
He goes, the people at the meatpacking plant don't cut that damn precise or neat. So I cut this cow all up.
15-year-old child does a better job than the butchers at the meatpacking plant can do.
And I mean, it was a damn big cow. It was like 150 pounds meat after I was done. And so I thought, they said, your father's pulling it up. I thought, God, it's just going to get worse. He comes over, he's all giggles and smiles. And what's wrong with you? They just gave me 75 pounds of steaks. What do you do? I said,
oh, he's such a hero. He earned his family 75 pounds of choice steak, and all he had to do was kill a cow with a rocket engine and a stampede and then butcher it better than the meat packing plant people could do. and his dad's laughing because they get free steak out of this story.
This cow to get killed. Well, they ain't mad? No. They were so pleased. You saved them a ton of money. The cow was old and was going to get rid of it. And you already now did all the drawing and quartering. It cost them nothing.
Yeah, the hero of the story is
gave
David
meat to
Adair.
So they felt they should pay you something. I'm not going to lose my respect. Hell no. They're happy with you. I went, so I fell in the shit pit and come out smelling like a rose? He goes,
He fell in the shit pit and come out smelling like a rose.
Dad said, yeah, you pretty much did. Pretty cool. I said, damn. So the women made me a hat I wore for years. And
But they were so impressed with his butchering job after his rocket engines caused a cow stampede that killed a cow, and he butchered it so perfectly that the ladies in the town folk ladies made him a special hat to commemorate his heroic butchering of a cow he caused to die. Does this? My God, this is so stupid.
to the front of it, it said speed. And everybody thought it meant I build fast things. No, it's short for stampede. Those farmers were great. You know,
Have the crop dusting come into that because
oh,
Now we're going to hear how the next story is even better. Because in the next story, he's a hero too. Because the poor town people, they bought a brand new airplane for crop dusting, but they couldn't get a pilot. So they just let a 15-year-old kid get in it and fly it. A brand new airplane. A bunch of adults just let a kid get in it and fly it. And he became the hero of the town because he flew that crop duster better than any of those other pilots. Are we seeing a pattern here start to emerge? Jesus, God, this is stupid.
oh, here's what happened.
Yeah.
Carl and Marie Compton had a farm across the road diagonally to me. They had a big grass runway built for the local crop dusting planes to come in and land. So they had bought a brand new AG-9 Commander. It's a yellow plane with a big bubble and got square wingtips. Excellent crop sprayer. Thing's brand new. Only had 2 hours on it, ops meter. And Carl came home. You know the phrase, caught you with the farmer's wife? The pilot was caught with the farmer's wife and daughter at the same time.
Oh my God, this story's getting great. So the pilot got caught banging the farmer's, not just the farmer's wife, but he was banging the farmer's wife and the farmer's daughter at the same time. This story's getting good, David Adair. Throw in some sex.
Well, Carl cuts loose with a 12 gauge. First shot he missed, second shot he gets pay dirt. He puts the damn pilot in the hospital.
Oh, he shot and injured the pilot. So now how's the poor town gonna do their crop dusting and make it to harvest without a hero?
Problem is, boll weevils just struck the next morning. They're losing, the Grange is losing thousands and thousands of dollars a day. And there's nobody to spray. All the pilots are busy. All the planes are busy. So they got this brand new AG-9 Commander and no pilot. So I'm sitting there going, I can fly it. And they went, well, we know you're smart, kid, and you fly rockets. Can you fly a plane? Hell yeah.
Yeah, so a bunch of adult farmers just took the word of a 15-year-old kid that shoots rockets off in their cow pasture that he could fly a crop dusting airplane with no experience or anything. But don't worry, he's going to read the manual first. That's his explanation for how he learned to fly an airplane by himself with no training or education.
I'm lying through my teeth. I read the manual. And then they come out and I said, I need to test a few things on the plane. It's brand new. I want to. So I take it down the runway, back and forth, back and forth. Finally, I go down the runway and I just ram it all the way, pull back on the stick, just what it says in the book. Off I go. Watch the altimeter, watch the artificial rising.
So a bunch of adults just let a 15-year-old kid get in a very, very expensive, brand new, by the way, airplane. But it's okay because he read the manual, and the manual tells you to go up. You pull the stick back. Like, this is so stupid. Okay, Davey. Yeah, you're crop duster now. In addition to all your other claims.
You turn the bank indicator.
And how old were you at that time?
I'm 16 at that time.
So
No, I was
16,
15.
You're self-taught in terms
Yeah.
He can't even keep track of how old he was. Oh, I was 15. I was 16. I don't know about you, but if I just got in an airplane at 16 years old and flew it, even if I crashed it, I would probably remember that I did that when I was 16, but that's just me.
pilot.
Yeah, I just read it.
No lessons, just
No,
you read
just-
the manuals.
And there's Michael Sala with his excellent contribution. Oh, yeah, you were so smart, David Adair. You didn't have any pilot lessons or anything. You just read the manual, and you totally could just fly an airplane at 15 years old.
Hit it. Hell, that thing had so much power, man. I was gone off the ground in the air before I even got halfway down the runway. It's such a powerful plane. And so I flew all over the landscape, practiced some runs, swooping and diving. And the AG-9 Commander's it's a big radial engine. So I came down, dropped over the power lines, come down, you get about 2 feet off the ground, got to get real close to the plants, drop all that damn 7 dust. Then when the trees come up, you go straight up where you're looking between your feet. Then you level off and don't stall, and that's called dusting.
Yes. So not only did he learn to fly an airplane just by reading the manual, he taught himself to be a crop duster. And I'm just going to put this out there. Go call a crop duster and ask them how long it would take them to train even an experienced pilot in the job of crop dusting. But we're supposed to believe that a 15-year-old kid who never flew a plane before, let alone knew anything about crop dusting, was able to totally do it better than anybody. And this is a common theme with this guy. He's better than everybody at literally everything he talks about. That, my friends, is the sure sign of a bullshitter, if you ask me. You can't be an expert at so many things in life. You just can't. I'm sorry.
So I learned to do it, and I got really good. I mean, I really got good at it. And I had one incident, just one. It was enough.
Was it legal at that time for
No, what we
16-year-old
did,
to
no.
fly a
And I
plane?
told them, I said, I ain't got no license. They don't care. There's $10,000 a day going. We don't care. So
Yeah, so a bunch of adults just let a kid with no pilot license get in a brand new airplane, figure out how to be a crop duster and work all the crop dusting machinery in addition to learning how to pilot a plane with no lessons, no education, sure. And all these adults just let a 15-year-old kid get in a brand new airplane and help them out because they needed the crops dusted.
And the farmers owned the plane. I mean, that was
they owned the plane, yeah. And they owned the runway. So I told them, you got any black masking tape? Yeah. We changed the numbers on the plane.
Ooh, sneaky,
made a
David
4.
Adair.
What, 4? We made a 1 look like a 4, and we made a 5 that looked like a 6. So the thing is,
one of the other things you'll notice with David Adair is he's always looking to one side while he's coming up with the bullshit. And I'm no expert, but that's a sign of using your imagination, not a sign of memory recall.
when people see me fly by, they write down the number. They can't trace it. Crazy. Anyway, they're thrilled. I save all the damn crops.
He saved all the crops. David Adair's a hero again. Again, are we noticing a theme? In all of his stories, David Adair is a big hero. Great. He saved the town and the harvest by flying an airplane at 15 years old with no lessons. Just, he read the manual. He figured it out, and all that crop dusting machinery and how to turn those things on and off and, do a good job crop dusting. He figured all that out too. on his own with no lessons or help or education or experience.
Get the bull weevils out. And I was flying home, ready to call it a day. Flew up over the hill, come down the hillside to the Comptons, and they had a big duck pond over here on the left, and a fucking flock of mallard ducks. No, Canadian geese, they're big. They're in the pond. I come up over real fast, so I look like a giant bird of prey to them probably. They all come up right into my damn plane. The splat, splat, splat. It's all over the damn windshield, all over the wings.
Man, not only is this guy killing cows, now he's killing ducks with an airplane as an unlicensed airplane pilot. Sure, at 15.
Put dented my wings and I got goose guts all over the damn engine inside the cell, and it cuts off. I've got no power. I've got nowhere to restart it. So I thought, damn, I'm going to have to put it down somewhere. So I come down and I line up right in front of my house, Route 3, State Route 3. It's a straight road. So I come right down. I'm coming up behind my two damn neighbors, live right next door. They're always elderly, walking on the road. And I'm making no sound. I'm like a giant owl, bird of prey coming behind them. But I'm going to hit them. So what I did, I wait till I got close and I pulled back, popped over them, and then landed right in front of them. And
Just
I
like a hero would.
down the road. And there in the curve is the gas station. I roll right up behind Pete, who's running the gas station. He hears the tires in the gravel. He turns around with the damn nozzle thinking it's a car. Here I am, this smoking ass plane. And I said, Pete, David, what the fuck are you doing? I just crashed. He said, well, what do you want to do? Help me push this thing over there across the street into that barn. So we put it in the neighbor's barn. Told the neighbors that I'd pay you for whatever you need, but I've got to rent that for a few days because I got to get this plane cleaned up. I had to order a oil line. It got broke. And
so not only did he learn to fly an airplane and run all the crop dusting equipment on the plane, then he crashes the plane, but it's okay because he just rented a barn and he could fix the entire plane himself at 15 years old. Just like he could learn to fly an airplane at 15 years old from reading the manual. I guess he read a maintenance manual and was able to repair an airplane. These among his so many skills. This guy is so talented. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm impressed at this man's level of talent. He's the best butcher in the town. He's the best pilot. Now he's the best airplane mechanic. Great.
And I got it all fixed. And so we waited till Sunday morning because there's no traffic. Pulled it out on the road. Pete and the other guys got up on top with walkie-talkies and said, it's clear. And I start up, and I'll go up the hill, and boom, I'm gone. I'm back in the sky again. And then I fly back to the runway, land, and put it in the barn. But that was
Okay, so you got hundreds of hours.
You notice at the end of each of his little story things, he laughs. And I always think that he's laughing to himself like, these people believe this shit. Who's going to believe this stupid shit? And he's laughing to himself about how stupid the shit that's spewing out of his mouth actually is. I don't even know. So there's one more story. Besides being an expert pilot and crop duster, a man capable at 15 years old of creating a fusion reactor rocket engine with a dual particle accelerator containment system. He's also an expert pilot, an expert crop duster, an expert cow butcher. But it gets even deeper because now he's going to make even more claims, and it has whole more stories of him being a hero while in the Navy. We're gonna skip ahead because I can't sit through. I have to skip ahead quite a bit. the best, the better BS. He kind of meanders in this next section, but we're going to get to the Navy story of him being a hero in the Navy as well. This guy, I'm so impressed with him. He's just an expert at everything. He's saving people. You know, he's killing cows and ducks, but he's saving the town and the harvest. He's creating revolutionary science technology that world famous scientists seek him out for, and world famous theoretical physicists are seeking him out for help with the math equations they need to do their work. This guy is just so talented. Oh, 1 second. We'll skip past that and be right back to you in one moment here. I got to check. All right, we're going to just go back to this because now he starts telling stories about being on a Navy submarine as well. 1 second. I don't want to get those confused. Okay.
Damn, you got shot down.
Fair
I
use.
said there was 5 on 1. I did okay. I got 4. He said, yeah, it's not too bad. He said, that other thing you dropped, what was that? Well, the first thing that I dropped was my fuel tanks.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is him being a fighter pilot somehow. Again, he can prove these military claims by just showing us his military records, but he never has and he never will, despite multiple researchers requesting that.
I'll come down. I blowed both his wings off on the first pass.
We got to go back even further to hear his ace fighter pilot story.
Aircraft missiles, they're about the size of telephone poles. They had like 200 of them setting up in front of a hospital at the square of Hanoi. You have to fly down the street. So I flew down the street. I took all the pictures, the films, photographed the damn AAs, fucking mountain of them out there. And they're feeding them out to the fields.
He's also, during the Vietnam War, I think this is, he's flying secret missions to help the CIA with surveillance.
Knocking our damn B-52s down left and right. So I photographed them. The photographs.
Again, he's a big hero. You notice the theme? David Adair is a huge hero, in case you haven't gotten the point yet.
My film canisters, we make it back. And they develop it. These 2 pilots find the films. And they take off with 2 A6 intruders. And they fly them down Main Street where I did. Went in and blowed up 200 fucking anti-aircraft missiles.
2 airplanes blew up 200 anti-aircraft missiles. I'm not a military expert, but even if you have, a very capable fighter that's fully loaded, I really don't think that you could blow up 200 anti-aircraft missiles that are set up and ready to go. But what do I know, right? David Adair's the hero of this story, not me.
Level Tiananmen Square, with Hanoi Square, and came out of there. Nobody caught them. They were gone. It screwed up the anti-aircraft battery so bad they couldn't function. And they came to the Paris peace talks.
So again, he is attaching himself to a famous historical event. Oh, I'm the hero of this story in which I flew surveillance recon secret missions and identified all these anti-aircraft missiles. And then the people that I work with went and blew up them all. And I'm such a hero. It's because of me that the enemy had to come to a peace conference because we screwed them up so bad with our secret missions. Again, he's the hero of the story.
They couldn't afford to be hit this hard again. So they started negotiating. And Nixon found out about it. And he said, Well, instead of punishing those pilots, we're giving them some air medals. And that's how that happened. But see, I'm the guy that shot the photos that caused the flight of the intruders to take place. So
I just injected myself into a famous historical event, and I made myself the hero of the whole story. And I have absolutely no evidence or proof, but trust me, bro, I'm a hero.
I'm not supposed to tell you anything about this.
Okay.
But I came out of the clouds and I looked down, and there's a MiG-23. That's a very formidable fighter, but I'm an F-14. I'm a bird of prey.
He's an F-14 pilot. He just said he's an F-14 pilot.
So I just went, okay, I'll come down. I blew both his wings off on the first pass. What I didn't know was MiG-23, MiG-23, 23, 23, 23. I take the first one out, now I got a swarm of bees. It's an old radar trick. On my IFF identify friend or foe radar, it says 1. There's 5. They're stacked. They fly that way. If you come down from the top where you normally do on an attack, you're only going to see 1. They got me.
Oh, poor David. He's flying his secret mission to save the United States, and there's 4 Russian fighter aircraft coming after him.
Now I took 1 out, but now it's 4 against 1. So I get 3 more. And then the 4th one finally puts a heat seeker up my port tailpipe, blows the engine through the damn rear, the titanium bathtub where all my radar. I'm a wild weasel pilot. You have your
He's a wild weasel pilot? Okay.
bombers, got your fighters, and a wild weasel in the front. We fly in, get everybody to shoot at us. Then the fighters lock onto the launch pads and take them out. Then the bombers come in and decimate everything else. Well, what happens to the wild weasel pilot when all the damn missiles are after him? That's his problem. Your F-4C is stripped down to the bone. You have no bombs, no missiles. You have a Vulcan Gatling gun, and that's it. And you only have about half your ammo because you're stripped for speed.
Oh, okay. So, man, even with only half of the normal ammunition to the fighter that he was piloting, by the way, he previously said F-14. Now he's saying F-4. He can't even get the plane that he was in during this fake adventure correct and consistent through a 10-minute story. Originally, he said he was flying an F-14. Now he's saying he was flying an F-4 Phantom that was stripped down and only had half its ammunition. So it's even more impressive that he was able to take out 4 Russian fighters. Man, this guy is impressive. He is a hero.
You should be able to outrun everything. But that's not a good situation. It's really not. So when I came out of the clouds, I did that. I got shot down. Down I went. Back's messed up. The Marine recon show up. I'm laying there on the ground. I said, I'm going to kill somebody. I can't get caught like this. So I put the gun by my. No, I'm going to shoot somebody. I'm so pissed off. And I thought, finally, I said, I'm just going to shoot myself. And then,
oh my God, the hero of our story was going to commit suicide. Even though he survived the plane crash and took out 4 Russian MiG fighters in his F-14. No, I'm sorry, in his F-4 Phantom. Okay.
Navy, here's the 4 prettiest words you ever heard. United States Marine Corps. They're Marine Recon. They were watching the air show. And they said, damn, you got shot down. I said, there was 5 on 1. I did okay. I got 4. They said, yeah, it's not too bad.
Wow.
Said,
so the hero of our story, he was actually getting attacked by 5 Russian MiGs. But don't worry, even with only half his ammunition in his F-14, I'm sorry, his F-4, he can't even know what, we don't know what plane. He was in an airplane and only had half its normal ammunition, but he was able to take out 4 of those fighters. But then, sadly, he crashed.
The other thing you dropped, what was that? Well, the first thing that I dropped was my fuel tanks so I could get ready for a dogfight. The second thing I dropped was my film canisters. Did you get them? We did. So me and the film made it back. Successful mission, even though I got shot down. Screwed up in the back. I was paralyzed for almost 6 months.
By the way, I just want to make it very clear that in any branch of the United States military, when an airplane crashes, whether during wartime or peacetime or any time, there would be a mountain of paperwork and an investigation and everything. You're talking about multi-million-dollar aircraft. If one crashes, no matter whether it's pilot error, environmental conditions, mechanical failure, whatever, mid-air collision, engine failure, no matter what happens, if an airplane crashes, there's a mountain of paperwork. So he could prove that he was an F-14/F-4 Phantom wild weasel ace combat, dog fighting hero by just showing us the paperwork from that plane crash. But I have the feeling we're never going to see that. And that speaks volumes about the validity of this man's ridiculous, stupid stories.
The left arm, left leg would not work. Just hang there.
You mentioned a camp. I mean, being in a camp and.
Well, that's the second time.
Oh, so you twice you were shot down.
I got healed up.
Oh, he was shot down a second time in his Top Gun adventure stories.
They said I'd never walk in. I proved that wrong. Went back to work, and then the second mission came up. And what this was...
Well, this guy's going on a lot of secret missions. And remember, he never said anything about any of this shit. We reviewed his original story. First it was he's going on secret missions to Area 51 as a 15 or 16 or 17-year-old child, and all these incredible scientists and historical figures are marveling at his incredible research into fusion technology rocket engines, and he saved them a lot of trouble because they couldn't figure out their alien engine, but he figured it out and built one, right? And now he's a war hero and all these other things. He saved a town, becoming a pilot. It's getting deep.
We weren't sure if these targets...
Now he's going on another secret mission. This guy is impressive. How many secret missions have you been on in your life? This guy's been on a lot of secret missions.
Targets were real. So if that's the case, then what you do, you send in an unregistered fighter. If he gets caught, he can say he's off the reservation. Everybody drops it. It's a bad situation to be in because you got no support. So I flew in, I napalmed this village.
He's napalming villages now. And he looks happy that he's napalming a whole village. What kind of a psychopath is happy about dropping napalm on an entire village of probably mostly civilians? But hey, sounds like a good story for him to be a hero again somehow.
They told me to because the intel said that there was tremendous stockpiles there. Been tearing us up. General Westmoreland was getting his butt kicked every day on the battlefield.
Oh, so he saved a general. Again, tying himself to important historical figures, but somehow making himself a hero related to those incredible historical figures.
He said, somewhere there's a huge supply. And this village was right next door to the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Just getting supplies. So I napalmed the whole damn village. And this one hooch is burning. And damn thing detonates with such a force, blows me out of the sky. I pass over it and just bad timing.
Wow, bad timing. So he got shot down again on his secret mission where he's napalming people.
But it basically snuffed both my engines out.
Oh,
I just plowed.
tough break, David Adair.
They capture me. A lot of fun things goes on.
And here's where it gets ridiculous and into stolen valor, because now he's going to claim that he was captured and was an actual prisoner of war during Vietnam. And I don't want to get too off in the weeds here, but God bless anybody who's ever been a prisoner of war, and how dare any bullshitter claim that without adequate documentation and proof and evidence of that claim. But what do I know, right? It's a slimy, scumball, shady thing to do to make up shit like that if it's not true while you're collecting UFO dollars, right? And why do all these people think if they just add military stuff, they'll be perceived as more credible? Because I guess it works.
How long were you in?
I was there for about 2 months. And nobody's coming to get me.
By the way, if he were indeed a prisoner of war, there would be records of that. He could show records of that.
You're off the reservation. So I thought, I'm so fucked. How am I ever going to get out of here? And then, strange thing. I asked to go apologize to the village. The base commander's going, I can't believe this about you. So they have an air raid.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
I apologize. Let me fast forward past that. So he's going to go apologize to the village that he napalmed. And I love this. Look, they find some historical picture and they just paste it behind David. Like, yeah, he was definitely a prisoner of war, right? But it's okay because he's going to apologize to all the people he killed in that village with napalm, and then they're going to let him go, right?
A tiger cage. Nobody comes and gets me out of the tiger cage. And I thought, God, I guess I'll just have to sit out here in a tiger cage in the middle of a damn air raid, having the shit bombed out of it. But I think I know why that happened. Because that tiger cage was so old and riddly, I turned around, used my feet, and I kicked the damn end of the door out. The hinges broke off. So I'm free. I'm up and running.
Oh, man, what a hero. He was a prisoner of war being kept captive. But don't worry, he just kicked the door and opened the cage. He's going to escape.
So I take off running. 2 people take after me.
This is like the asinine adventure series, right? These stories aren't even good if they're true.
And that's where I fell in with the tiger.
Right.
Oh my God, he fell in with a tiger.
But that was my second term.
So you escaped.
Yeah. So I was, first time I got rescued by Marine Recon. Second time I just escaped myself and outran them.
Wow, what a hero. The second secret mission, he didn't even need the help of Marine Recon people. He just escaped himself. What a hero.
Help of a big ass tiger. He'd have a pursuer.
A big tiger was chasing him. That's how he was able to run away, because a big tiger was chasing him. And everybody knows if a big tiger is chasing you and you're a human being, you can totally outrun a big tiger, right? Somebody fact check that. That's some bullshit. But again, don't let things like science, facts, logic, and actual evidence get in the way of a good bullshit story.
But after that, nobody pursued me.
And again, that's when we have that incident with the tiger and the consciousness.
Yeah. And that's not all. There was another incident. I was walking down the trail, and this cute little kid come out of the bush. I almost shot him because I didn't see him. And he's trying to tell me something, but we don't speak language. But finally, he just puts his hand out and stops me. He takes this long stick and throws it out in front of me. And this tripwire goes out, and these damn bamboo clamps show up.
Now they got booby traps.
With spikes that long on each side. That would have killed me. I'd have been dead right there. So I gave him, the only thing I had was a piece of gum. I had hidden forever. Pulled it out and gave it to him. And I was trying to tell him, don't swallow it, just chew. And he liked it. And
wow, that's a cool kid. He saved him from getting skewered by enemy booby traps.
that's crazy.
More adventures of David Adair.
Incident, while you were.
He looks like a Stallone type or like an Arnold Schwarzenegger, or Top Gun Maverick kind of a guy, doesn't he? He totally looks like the hero of all these stories he's telling. Sure.
O&I, with the O&I, you told me about the submarine. I mean,
Yeah, now we're gonna hear about this will be the last one. I can't take much more of this fucking guy. Now he's gonna tell us about his submarine adventures. So he's not just an ace fighter pilot, he's also a submarine expert. Yes, you heard it, friends.
wanna-
Yeah,
that's
that.
cool.
Oh my God, that was There's so many stories.
Yeah, notice he's struggling to tell the story after being prompted by Michael Sala. You could see it in his face. He's trying to get his next bullshit story straight in his brain.
That one was good though. What happened was,
And he's stalling.
I didn't tell you the full story about the hammock. I was chronic seasick. I mean, I got seasick on a carrier. That's bad. They're like a moving ocean. I mean, a city. I still got seasick. So if you put me on anything smaller, I'm going to turn green. And I did. And I could take throwing up. I was good at it. And this postmate was watching me and he said, you're a very likable fellow. People like you. So we're going to do something for you.
He's so special that they recognized how special he was and they're going to do something for him. And isn't it interesting that a guy who, is an ace fighter pilot somehow can't stand to be on a ship or he gets sick? He gets motion sickness. Does that make sense? That you could be like an ace fighter pilot, but being on a ship is enough to give you motion sickness? I'm calling bullshit already, but okay.
We're going to go old school. And I went, oh God, what are you going to do to me? And he said, nothing, I'm going to make something for you. And he knitted this hammock. He said, you ever notice the hammocks on the old tall ships? Yeah. They'd hang all the hammocks up and they slept among the cannons. And when they got ready to get action, they take all the hammocks down and use the cannons. He said, yeah. What do you think they're using hammocks? Well, they're easy to roll up and get out of the way. There's another reason. The ships moved so badly. You hang in a hammock, you stop moving, and the ship keeps moving around you.
Oh boy, this sounds great. Except I've never seen a Navy ship, a modern one anyway, with hammocks, right? But David Adair's smarter than everybody in the Navy, though, so you got to keep that in mind.
And that motion in your inner ear stops, and you're no longer sick.
And it's okay because somebody just knitted him a hammock. A sailor on a submarine just knitted him a hammock.
Really? So he gave me this hammock. I'm already green. I hang it up. It's a destroyer I'm on. I roll into this thing.
Oh, first he's on a destroyer, then he's on a submarine.
And damn, I'm not in there 1 second. And I'm no longer sick. The motion stopped. Ship's moving all around me. All I did was close my eyes. I don't want to see the ship. He said, keep your eyes closed and stare at the ceiling in one spot. And he said, you'll be okay. So that hammock became my best buddy. So I'm on this sub. I hang my hammock up. And
now, earlier he said he was on a destroyer. Now he's saying he's on a submarine. So did he forget that first he said he was on a destroyer, or is this a different story?
The front torpedo room, where I'm out of the way of everybody.
And by the way, I'm no expert in military, procedures, but my dad was in the Navy, and I just have a hard time believing that any ship captain or submarine captain would just let people hang hammocks right near nuclear weapons, right? And missiles. I'm sorry, I don't think they let you do that, David Adair, but okay.
And I come back and my hammock has been stolen. I go straight to the captain. This is before the suit incident. Tell the captain, somebody stole my hammock. He said, okay, we can fix this. This is what I mean by when you're a commander with sub-commanders don't have time for bullshit. They don't. They just go straight to it. He gets on the radio and tells the whole ship, all right, we got a guest here on board, O&I. He put a hammock up there in the front.
Oh, and besides being an ace fighter pilot, he's also claiming that he was working for the Office of Naval Intelligence, and he was a very special guest on this destroyer. Oh, sorry, I mean submarine. You notice a pattern here? Like in the previous story, he couldn't even keep the airplane he was flying straight in the story. First it was an F-14, then it was an F-4. Now he's telling this story, and first he's on a destroyer, on the surface of the ocean. Now he's on a submarine. And he's such an important guest on this submarine that the captain stops everything and tells the whole crew, we're not moving until you give him his hammock back, because this David Adair is so important, right?
Torpedo room. He is chronic seasick. You have stole basically his medicine. Now he's sick. So we are in a metal tube 1,000 feet under the water. I'm ordering all stop. We're not going to fucking move until somebody returns that hammock, no questions asked. Otherwise, we'll be here for the next 9 months.
Totally plausible story, right?
I promise you, we ain't moving nowhere.
Over a hammock.
Buddy.
Because David Adair's so important, he can't steal his hammock.
My damn hammock was back up there swinging. And I don't know who took it. I don't care. I didn't ask. Neither did the captain. But he said, you can bet the crew got it. Somebody who stole it. Got them in a corner and threatened to kill them or beat them to death. Because they're not going to stay there for that shit.
Yeah, the whole crew. David Adair is so important that the whole crew found out who stole it and threatened to beat him to death if he didn't give the hero of the story, David Adair, his hammock back. They were going to beat him to death in the middle of the ocean in a submarine or a destroyer. Take your pick.
So I crawled back into my hammock and I was fine. So that's when Chiefs walked up. I guess that's where they got the idea. As a guest on board, you don't have to do anything. So the Chiefs walk up to me and they look at me and say, we're working on a special suit.
And now the people on the ship or on the submarine, take your pick. He can't keep it straight. Why should I? They're so impressed with David Adair that they come to him with a special science, technology job just for him because he's so important, right? And he's working for the Office of Naval Intelligence, but he used to be an ace fighter pilot that flew F-14s or F-4s. He wasn't sure. And he taught himself to fly an airplane at 15 years old from a manual. Sure.
Design.
Now they're going to utilize his superior scientific intellect, besides all his other hero things like being an ace fighter pilot and taking out 4 Russian MiGs with half the ammunition. Now they need his special science expertise.
To work in a reactor while it's at full power.
So they're designing a suit so somebody can work inside a reactor when it's at full power. I'm calling impossible on that. Even with my limited knowledge of nuclear physics, you can't, I don't care what you build the suit out of. I don't know, but let's hear what he has to say.
And I said, well, damn, what idiot are you going to get to work in that thing? Little did I know. So they said, and what can I do for you? He said, well, we work on it. There's 5 of us. We have to put one of us in the suit. And we lose out all those extra hands. We could get a lot more done if we could put somebody in the suit as a mannequin.
So we need this is a new story, and we need a hero. And David Adair steps up to the plate to be the guy in the special suit that can withstand a full-on nuclear reactor. Sure.
I said, oh, okay. Can I read my book? Sure. Okay, yeah, put me in there. Well, first thing they did was give me an enema, and I went, how long am I going to be in this damn thing?
They had to give him an enema before they put him in the special suit. They put a tube up his ass and gave him an enema. And he's saying this shit with a straight face.
And they said it quite a while. Then they put this thing over your penis. It looks like a condom. It's a relief tube. Then they start strapping you in.
They strapped him in with some kind of condom he can piss through because he's going in a special nuclear suit.
Takes 2.5 hours to get that stupid suit on. It's built like a astronaut suit. It's got a big full face helmet, shield out in the front. There's a
What the hell kind of shield could they put on your face that would withstand a full-blown nuclear reaction right near you?
switch I can flip on and off on my toggle switch on my hand. And I can hear what's being said. So I'm sitting there and I just turned the thing off because I'm reading the book. It's quiet. And they told me be careful with my hands because I have 400 foot-pounds on each finger. That's enough to crush a bowling ball.
Well, they put him in like an Iron Man suit, and he had enough power in that suit to crush a bowling ball somehow. Sounds plausible, sure.
So I'm sitting there going, okay. So I don't hear anything, but I see all the lights flashing and people running everywhere. And I look around and all the chiefs are gone.
Oh,
What the hell's going on? So here comes a sailor running down the deck. I reach out and grab him by his arm. I'm about to break his arm with these things. I flipped the switch on. I said, what the hell's going on? We got a situation. I can see that. What's all the alarms and bells and whistles? What's going on? He said, all 5 reactors have scrammed.
oh, but only David Adair can save the whole ship and save the whole crew. Here comes another adventure of David Adair, where he's a hero.
What? They all scrammed. We're going to turn into a nuclear fireball and we're going to melt. Whoa, shit. So I let go of him. And I'm sitting in a suit. What am I going to do? I can't even get out of a suit. And then another guy comes in and sits down right in front of me on purpose. And he looks me right through the visor. And he reaches down and he flips my comm switch on. So he knows all about that. And I said, I recognize the emblems. I said, hey, Skipper. It's the sub commander.
Wow, so the captain of the ship needs hero David Adair to save the ship from a nuclear meltdown. This shit is so stupid, I can't stop listening to it.
And he said, son, we got a problem out here. I said, yeah, I can see it. We're going to melt down in about 22 minutes. It took 2.5 hours to put you in that suit. Take you 2.5 hours to get out. There isn't time. What do you want?
You got to save the ship,
I want you
David
to go in there
Adair.
and fix the reactors. I said, I don't know anything about reactors.
This guy just said he knows nothing about reactors after he claimed to build a fusion reactor as a 15-year-old child. But in this story, he doesn't know anything about nuclear reactors. Again, there's a problem with consistency of stories here, Mr. Adair. But yeah.
He said, the pile rod's jammed. Go in here and take a look. I see in your record you're an underwater welder. You know how to do this stuff. I said,
Oh my God. In addition to being an ace fighter pilot, a world-renowned scientist and mathematician and physics expert who can build dual particle accelerator nuclear fission rocket engines, he's also an expert underwater welder. And an ace fighter pilot. Wow, man. David Adair is an impressive individual.
okay. So I go in and I'm finally sitting there and I lean back in the seat and I just went, which way to the reactors? Because there's no other excuse. You're going to lose a $6 billion submarine, 130-man crew gone. All of that. So, yeah, I got to do something. And I'm going to die in the process. So,
Oh, wow, the hero of the story. He's going to save the whole ship and all 130 crew. And the captain came to him and said, the power rod's stuck. You got to fix it, hero David Adair. And he said, okay, yeah.
where's the reactors? So we went in there. They put me in the first room, heading to the second room. And I'm starting to open the door and the chiefs tell me, Adair, whatever you do, don't touch anything that's blue. Why? You'll vaporize. Oh, God. Open the door and the whole damn room is blue. I went, well, now what? And they went, I don't know. It's all new to us. Oh, God. So I look over on the wall. There's all the pile rods drove in flush.
Don't worry. David Adair's going to save the whole crew.
Wide open. one pile rod laying diagonally like this, dark, cold. I said, there's a pile rod that probably shorted all the others out. So,
And a man who just claimed he knew nothing about nuclear reactors is suddenly an expert in diagnosing and repairing nuclear reactors.
I go there, pick up the pile rod with these special arms.
Oh, and he had special Iron Man arms that let him pick up a nuclear power rod by himself. Okay. How much do those things weigh? Fact check this clown.
And because pile rods are heavy, but don't fit with this thing. So I set it in place, and I noticed the scissor bracket that the damn rod sits on has broke in half.
Oh, no, David Adair.
A $6 scissor bracket, and you're going to lose a $6 billion submarine and 130 people. I thought, boy, this is embarrassing.
But it's okay because David Adair is also an expert in underwater welding.
So I picked the thing up, take a pair of vice grips, lock the scissors, put the pile rod in, tack weld it, and the pile rods, they hit their switches, and this pile rod goes in all the way, and then they all come out, all of them. All the reactors shut down, everything's quiet.
Oh, David Adair saved the day. He's a hero. Again. Notice a pattern?
And they said, we're on battery power. And they said, everything's fine. So I come out there, and they start flushing me out. First flush goes by, and they said, wait a minute. What? You're still 1,000 Redkins. After the flush? What was I before? You don't want to know. Oh, God.
Yeah, that's enough radiation to probably instantly kill you. But again, don't let things like facts and evidence and real science get in the way of a good bullshit story.
So I said, am I going to have any balls left? They said, we'll check you out. So they flushed it, refilled, flushed it 7 times. Finally, it cooled down.
He was so nuclearly irradiated that they had to do decontamination 7 times. Okay, David Adair.
I was at about 100 Redkins. They let me out, got me out of the suit, checked me out. Balls were fine. And everything was fine. And I'm laying in the bunk of sick bay. Here's the skipper walks up. I thought, oh, God, here we go.
Oh, don't worry. He's going to tell you he saved the day, David.
I thought, oh, this is bad when he starts out like that. Yeah, skipper, what's up? He goes, you don't drink, do you? I said, no, sir, I don't. He goes, what are you, some kind of weirdo or something? I said, what? He goes, you're a SEAL, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't chase women, you got...
There's another claim. In addition, listen! In addition to being a world-renowned technologist and scientist and an ace fighter pilot that can take out 4 MiGs, and he learned to fly a plane at 15 years old just from a manual, and saving, countless people on his secret missions as a Top Gun Maverick kind of, pilot. He's also an underwater welding expert, and he works for the Office of Naval Intelligence, and he's a Navy SEAL. He just said he was a Navy SEAL. Come on. So stupid.
No tattoos.
By the way,
Admiral said,
for those unaware, there is a list of every person who has passed SEAL training and actually become a SEAL. I checked on that list. David Adair is not on that list. Anybody interviewing David Adair when he makes a ridiculous, stupid claim like that should stop him, look up that list, and ask him why he's not on the list of actual and real and verifiable Navy SEALs. And why would he do a stolen valor fraud claiming to be a Navy SEAL while collecting money for telling fake UFO stories?
says I'm a freak of nature. He goes, yeah, I think he's right. He said, you drink tea? I said, yeah, I like iced tea. He said, we can't tell anybody about this. I said, I kind of figured that because isn't it kind of embarrassing a $6 bracket would cost you $160 billion sub?
Besides, it was a secret mission. You can't tell everybody about it.
Yeah, we can't live with that kind of crap. He goes, but know that will be addressed. I said, somebody's ass should be hung on that one. said, yeah. He said, what will happen? We're not going to, no medals, nothing we can do. Thank you to this lame.
Oh,
But he said,
poor
know
hero
this.
doesn't get a medal.
In the submarine community, it will be always classified, but it's going to be known. They're going to know you.
Go ask anybody connected to the Navy submarine program if they've ever heard of David Adair and his stupid secret mission where he reset the nuclear reactor and saved 130 crew members, right? Go ask anybody in the Navy submarine programs if they ever heard of him and his classified mission and his bullshit claims being a Navy SEAL and an underwater welding expert and a world-renowned scientist.
And he said, wherever you go, whatever bar you go to in the submarine community, they find out you're David Adair of the Tigerfish.
Wow, David Adair, the hero.
You will never buy a drink the rest of your life.
Wow, he's such a
and
hero.
That happened about 4 or 5 times.
4 or 5 times people knew who David Adair was and bought him drinks at bars because he saved a whole submarine with a special Iron Man suit.
I go to a submarine bar, find out I'm the guy from, it's not Tigerfish, it's something else. And I'm
so he's giving a fake name of a ship so that nobody can research it.
The guy in the suit, and they asked me, what's the captain's name? I'll tell them. What's the first Master Chief's name? I'll tell them that. And they went, damn, you were there.
You were such a hero,
you know,
David Adair.
Anything in the damn bar.
Anything in the bar you want. You're such a hero, David Adair.
You want the bar? We'll buy the bar. No, I said iced tea be fine. Iced tea, okay. I told him I'm a recovering alcoholic.
So during your whole 20-year career, just to kind of tie this up with what we've discussed earlier,
right?
Do you think, or was there any mission, any kind of event that kind of like connected in some way to Petalon and what you discovered about carrying that consciousness?
Well,
now they just get into the woo.
Yeah, but it's subtle. Like that time I escaped on my own and I'm running through the jungle and I run out into midair and I fall down and I land in front of a Belgian tiger size of that couch.
Belgian tiger? He means Bengal tiger. If you're going to tell a bullshit story with a tiger, get the tiger right. There isn't a Belgian tiger. It's called a Bengal tiger, you liar.
And it's looking at me. And it's going to kill me. Its ears are down.
Again, he's the hero of the story. He successfully evaded a killer tiger. Hero that he is.
And I'm sitting there going, wait. And it's looking at me. Like I can feel I'm connecting. I said, there are 2 men coming to kill us. They're going to kill me and you. And it looks up and its ears are.
Now he's telepathically communicating with the tiger, friends. Besides all of his other accomplishments, he's also got telepathic superpowers to communicate with angry, hungry tigers trying to kill him.
Goes down, looks back at me and its ears come up. And I took that as a sign. I don't know what it was. Might have been pistol, somebody. But that cat got me. And I went, I'm leaving. It didn't do a thing. I get up, doesn't move.
Well, you telepathically communicated it.
Come down.
Yeah.
I take off. I hear them fall. They don't even get a shot off. All I hear is bones breaking.
Oh, the tigers killed the bad guys for David because he asked them to
it was
telepathically help him.
And also, you ever seen a big cat or any cat squat down and shoulders come up above it? Oh, it's getting ready to do this thing. That's what it's doing. I was thinking, God, help. Anybody land in front of that thing right now? You won't even know what killed
I agree, Nelson.
So there was some kind of psychic connection.
Yeah, I believe Piston was.
I'm way behind in the live chat. I'm trying to catch up.
And there's been other times, other things that went on.
Anything that you can share?
Yeah, he gave the tiger a piece of
gum. This is not classified at all. This happened with a guy named Paul Andrews. Paul runs the Whole Life Expos.
Michael
that
Sala.
contest.
That would
Yeah,
be thermal
that
nuclear.
crowd.
Mhm.
Well, this is years before that. This is Whole Life Expo. I
Oh,
was at
okay.
Las Vegas. This is
He
20
rode on the
years ago.
tiger's back. Yes.
And I'll never forget this. This is a serious technical sidebar I'm supposed to do. I'm going to explain in detail how fusion containment works. So I've got a blackboard, I'm drawing stuff. And then something happens. Over on my right side,
You're right, Patty.
I'm facing my audience. On the right side over here behind the petition in another room is a drum circle, a drum corps. They're over there doing their drumming and stuff. And I thought, that's pretty cool. And then on the left side is a grieving circle. That's grim. These people are all just dying in grief and stuff. So I'm listening to the drums.
This
I'm
man
up at
is
the
a
blackboard
goddamn
and finally I
genius.
go,
Yes.
gather near. I have a tale to tell. And I thought, what the fuck is all this about? And there was two professors down in front. They were PhDs. And I said, look there, we have a paradox.
He said
And the
crikey.
people get it. They
And the
bust
tiger
out
backed
laughing.
off. Yes.
And I thought, wow, that's not me. I wonder who that is. Pistol. So I said, a paradox. And then there's two women next to them. And they're laughing so hard they turned red. So I jump off the stage right down in front of them. I said, look at you. You're red in the face. You're dying. Uh-huh. Can't breathe. I said, well, go ahead and die.
Yeah,
We
he's
got
going to
Daniel
play with the
Brinkley here.
Beatles
I'll be
next.
back in time for lunch. And they bust out. I mean, and finally the room monitor, who is, he's Australian, by the way.
Yes.
He lives over in
He's still got a chance to be a
Clyde.
hero one more time before we
Over by
close today, I think.
paper mill place. Smells so bad. Anyway, you came through it. If you smelled a paper mill today, that's where he lives. He was going like this. He's pointing down at the door. And I look over at the door and I see an arm come up and grab hold of the handle. It's somebody that's laughing so hard they can't even stand up anymore. And they're rolling out the door and they done pissed their pants. I mean, that's how
well, there
crazy
he
it's
is.
getting in this room.
The hero of the
Paul
story.
Andrews is
All
the
these people were dying of grief, but he told the joke and everybody laughed so much he's a hero again. 1,000
yards away. He hears all this yelling and screaming. He thinks that's David Adair. He's got a riot going. So they all come running over just in time to see somebody roll out the damn door on the floor. Paul goes, God mighty, what's going on in there? So a guy walks up to me and he says, this your room? I said, yeah. You're the speaker? Yeah. I'm the leader of the drum corps. Oh, God, did we mess you up? He goes, you're so loud I can't even hear the drums.
Oh, he told the
He
joke
said,
so good that they
The drum
overpowered
corps
the drums.
Bring all the drums in. And they
with
did.
the laughter that he created.
I said,
because he's
follow me
also
with
an
the
expert
drums.
comedian.
I'm up on the
I guess.
stage. I'm going, help me, somebody. I'm possessed. And they're all laughing. I ain't kidding. Something has possessed me. Probably Bethlehem. So I'm like, God. So they're screaming and hollering, and it's like nothing will stop it.
Then he invented the adult diaper.
Walks up to me and says, I'm next door with the grieving circle. Oh, did we mess you up? You're laughing so hard over here. The whole grieving circle.
He is all welcome.
I think it'd be very good for them. I went, hell yeah, we'll pack you in here somewhere. About like a shoehorn. Now there's so many people. I'm up against the wall in front of the screen, and I can't move. There's so many people in there.
So many people.
On
so many people had to come and see the great David Adair, war hero, submarine savior, world-renowned scientist and technologist, right? Yes.
It won't stop. Now, damn if I can think of his name. The room monitor is recording this. They play the recording back. You never hear my voice. You just hear all the laughter. And it tapers down, then it blows up again because I said something. But my voice is not recordable.
Whoa.
And I told him,
paranormal.
I need that tape. I need that tape more than any tape I've ever done.
Spooky.
He said,
He
like
telepathically made everybody laugh with his
you heard the
superpowers, I
machine's
guess.
fine. We tested it out just now. It's not the machine. It just would not record you.
Sounds more like a circle jerk circle,
What
yes.
the hell that was. So
he
don't know
blowed
if
him
it's
up.
or not.
Yeah,
but
maybe he dropped
she
napalm on
did
him.
show up one time. I just had a thought. I went to Mammoth Cave. You ever been to Mammoth Cave?
Yeah.
All right, there's a room they call the Cathedral Room. Has a bridge that goes across it.
I have no
Has
idea.
these big
Thermal
rails
made.
all the way up over top so people won't fall. It's a 1,000-foot drop. They don't want to lose anybody. And that's where they turn the lights off. Your eyes can't adjust. And the acoustics are so perfect in this cathedral that if you're talking this, my voice sounds like it's right here in your ear, and I could be at the other end of the house. The acoustics are that good. So, okay, I get it. So they turn off the lights. The eyes can't adjust.
Does he have time to be a hero one more time in the next few minutes? I think so. He's always the hero.
And then all of a sudden, I'm going to say something. And I'm going, what am I going to say? I don't even, all of a sudden, you hear a deep voice, total darkness. And what you hear is, hey, lady, that ain't no handrail. And the place explodes.
Wow, used his comedic skills again to make an entire cave full of people laugh like crazy at his stupid joke. He's a hero again, friends!
You get it? The big rails over top of us?
Mm-hmm.
And this voice says, hey, lady, there ain't no handrail. And the place explodes. The ranger's scrambling on the wall trying to get the lights on, asking, who the hell said that? And I'm like everybody else. I'm with my third wife.
Oh my God, this guy's had 3 wives?
And her best friend. And I'm looking around with
who would have guessed?
Who said that? Who said that wasn't me? I'm funny, but I'm not that damn funny.
Okay, so he's getting telepathic funny downloads now, I guess.
That was brilliant comedy.
He admits himself he's brilliant at comedy, in addition to all of his other incredible
The
accomplishments.
lights went off. It started. Hey, lady, ain't no handrail. And it's stuff like that that's went on through my life. Not earth-shaking events, but I clearly know when it's above my class. You know, smarter than I am.
So what is it? Aliens are feeding him jokes, or otherworldly interdimensional beings? I don't get it.
And in this room, many a time had wife died that lay there, and I would say something on TV off of it, bounce off of it. She'd hear it, and she broke out laughing so bad she poured a whole glass of water all over herself because it was just hilarious. And I told her, I said, that's funny. I heard it the first time you did. That's somebody at something else talking.
So he's getting
So
comedic
this one will
downloads?
speak
I don't get it.
I just asked her, whatever you do, please don't embarrass me on a stage in front of an audience and kill me, you know. And she hasn't. It's been a symbiotic relationship. She has never done anything harmful or abusive, but done very smart stuff.
Well, maybe for the next segment, the next part, we can talk about things that have been happening recently with inventions, AI, and so forth.
Yeah, this guy's going to tell you all about modern inventions and artificial intelligence technology, since he's such a world-renowned scientist, right? And, you know, they call him, all the people that hype this guy and sell his fake stories, they call him a world-renowned aeronautics expert. And I challenge you, go find somebody involved in aeronautics that even knows who this guy is. Nobody outside of UFOs has ever heard of this guy.
Oh, yeah.
And other materials. So we'll bring this part to an end now.
Yeah.
And regroup.
Yeah.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Sala.
This guy should be ashamed of himself for putting this on a public YouTube page. Michael Sala, come on, bro. Did you not have the basic logic and you know, to just go through his claims like we just did? Why would you put this garbage out on the internet? This fake storytelling superhero nonsense. Yeah, so we're gonna call it there. Yes, Moondust says, please end this. Thank you for being a member. Thank God it's over. We made it through in just over 3 hours. So we're going to wrap things up here, but we want to take a moment to thank all of our kind and generous benefactors, you super chatters, you PayPal pledgers, you Patreon supporters, you YouTube channel members. We want to thank each and every one of you. We're a viewer-supported show. So if you want to see more, please be sure to throw a couple bucks in our hat and help us praise the cash and keep trying to provide some balance to the cavalcade of bullshittery that goes on out there. What can I say to wrap up that I haven't already said? What you got to know about this guy is that he's a big, huge hero, even though nobody's ever heard of him outside of the UFO community. And, you know, most of me feel sorry for this guy, and especially for anybody that believes him, because if people believe him, that means they don't have the simplest level of like logic and critical thinking that we have discussed here tonight. This guy's telling a story, and he can't even get straight what airplane he's flying during the story he's telling. Or he's telling a story where he's a hero in the Navy, but he can't get whether he was on a destroyer or a submarine straight. I mean, if you can't get the basics of the story down, and again, you know, it's often been said that extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. Mr. Adair could prove many of his claims by just releasing his military records that would show he's an underwater welding expert, that he worked for the Office of Naval Intelligence, that he was actually a Navy SEAL and also a Top Gun pilot during the Vietnam War that fought Russian MiG fighters and blew 4 of them up before they took him out. It's so ridiculous. All those records would exist. He'd be able to prove all of this by just releasing his military records. Now, just to be clear, I have not thoroughly investigated his military records, but I am aware that he could prove every one of these claims, being a Navy SEAL, working for the Office of Naval Intelligence, being an underwater welding expert, and more. He could prove all those claims by releasing his military records. Why doesn't he? Right? And then he was shot down, but he escaped twice because he's a big hero. I don't know. Maybe, listen, growing up, I grew up on the mean streets of Philadelphia. And if you hung around the neighborhood, there was always like a neighborhood bullshitter. And the neighborhood bullshitter would tell you like war stories from Vietnam, when he was in Vietnam or something. But a common theme you would notice from these neighborhood bullshitters, later from the bar bullshitters. You know, I used to spend a lot of time in bars, and there was always some old guy drinking and telling bullshit stories. These people always make themselves very important and connect themselves to famous people with no evidence, no proof whatsoever. They always make themselves the hero of the story, I think, because they feel invisible and unimportant. And if they just have that moment where people believe that they might be important, maybe they'll feel better from a self-esteem perspective. I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I have excellent bullshit radar, and I'm calling bullshit on everything this guy says. Every single thing he says must be fact-checked and confirmed before you even begin to believe anything he's saying. So, you know, I think we've done our due diligence, and I'm glad to get this one out of the way because people message me all the time. Why don't you do another show on David Adair? Look at what he's saying. And like, I don't think we should have to. I think that this one, you know, there's just some that are so ridiculous, so stupid, we shouldn't waste time on them. But since so many people requested this, I'm going to tell you what I think. And what I think is that David Adair is a great bullshitter. Well, no, he's a terrible bullshitter. I don't know. Well, how do we gauge this? Because if you're a good BSer, it would be harder to catch you BSing. That's my take on whether somebody's a good bullshitter or a terrible one. I think David Adair is a terrible one. He can't even get what kind of airplane he was in when he was flying a secret mission straight. He can't get whether he's on a destroyer or a submarine straight while he was a hero in the Navy. Then he says he's a Navy SEAL. And remember, he was such an important scientific mind at 12 and 13 years old that world-renowned physicists and mathematicians were seeking him out for help with their math problems. It's so stupid. And he was such a genius rocket inventor that famous historical people came and kidnapped him and took him to Area 51. And did you catch the problem with the just to review, he said that his rocket took off at 650 miles away from Area 51 dry lake bed. It took off and was doing 8,500 miles an hour. But then David Adair and the general and the NASA people all got in a regular conventional, I would assume at the time, prop airplane and flew to Area 51. And somehow they got there just as the rocket was coming down. That rocket that was doing 8,600 miles an hour. Like, even like from a, like, I'm sorry, that does not make sense. If a rocket takes off for Area 51 and it's 650 miles away from Area 51, but it's doing 8,650 miles an hour, then you do the math. You couldn't beat it there flying a regular airplane, but he just said that he did. And right as they were flying into Area 51, they saw his rocket parachutes coming down. Were they flying the fucking Blackbird to Area 51 from Wright-Patterson? How the fuck did they catch an 8,650 mile per hour missile? They couldn't. This story is so stupid. It's bullshit. Why are we still listening to this guy? Because you made me. Some of you fucking keep messaging me. Do a show on this guy. It's so stupid. Can we just skip some of these assholes? I think we should be allowed to just skip some of these people because it's so stupid. It's not worth it. That's just me. But if you enjoyed this evening, then I'm glad that I spent the time to do it. And at least for a little while, I can tell people to not message me to do a show about this clown. No, I don't want to do it. We've done our due diligence. And we'll take a few comments and questions from the live chat. I think I missed one. Yes, I did. Real Steel Rumblehead with a kind and generous $10. Fact, he lives in a double wide near where I live. While he claims to be a multimillionaire living in a huge Bruce Wayne-style mansion, Batcave Laboratory connected. Also, he's been married 5 times. Damn, 5-time loser, at least 4-time loser. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support in helping us to praise the cash, Real Steel Rumblehead. Yeah. No, Real Steel, you're wrong, because he said that a very wealthy Middle Eastern investor gave him $5 billion. Why would he be living in a double-wide trailer if somebody gave him $5 billion? Right? And by the way, in all the write-ups on David Adair, he says that he has a company, Intercept Incorporated. Go look it up. Doesn't exist. Just like that award he claims to win from the Air Force as a child doesn't exist. So, there's some real problems with him. Thank you, Real Steel Rumblehead. We appreciate it. And thank you, Legal Eagle, who just became a YouTube channel member. Remember, if you become a YouTube channel member during a live broadcast, we give you a shout out and a thank you. Thanks for becoming a member, Legal Eagle. And we thank you, Real Steel Rumblehead, for your kindness, generosity, and support. Thanks for everybody for helping us to praise the cash.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, so we've done our due diligence. Some people I just don't want to waste time on, because now I get, by the way, I'm just going to put this out there too. I get it. People are going to say, well, you didn't show evidence he wasn't a Navy SEAL. Anybody can look that up. Well, you didn't show evidence that he wasn't a Top Gun, fighter pilot hero during the Vietnam. Okay. Well, then he can show his proof he was. Brandolini's law applies here. And we talked about that so many times before, but I posted it on my Twitter. By the way, be sure to follow me on Twitter to keep up with the latest at Stephen Cambion. Also follow us on Instagram at Truthseekers Show. But on Twitter, it's at Stephen Cambion. And I posted this Brandolini's law because it applies to so many of these people. People demand, right? Why should I spend 12 hours trying to get his military records When I'm not a family member, I can't. I can get his basic enlistment date and the date that he was discharged. That's pretty much it. I can't get the proof of him being a Navy Top Gun pilot, right? A war hero during the Vietnam War. He's got to release that. But Brandolini's Law was a term coined in 2013 by Albertino Brandolini, an Italian programmer. And the law simply states that the amount of energy needed to refute bullshit is an order of magnitude bigger than that needed to produce it. So in order to really, truly prove this guy wrong, I would have to do an awful lot of work. And I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do that. So he's the guy making the claims. So far, he has to prove that he met Stephen Hawking, prove that he met Werner von Braun, prove that he met Neil Armstrong, prove that he was flown into Area 51 and saw an alien spaceship engine, prove that he built an exact replica of that alien spaceship engine with a double particle accelerator fusion containment system that was also cryogenic, with deuterium, a rare exotic element at the time he claimed that he built this thing out of it. He's got to prove that he shot down 4 MiG Russian fighters during the Vietnam War. He's got to prove that he napalmed an entire village. He's got to prove that he saved an entire submarine, a submarine crew from a nuclear meltdown disaster. He's got to prove that he just learned to fly an airplane at 15 years old, and a bunch of farmers just gave him a brand new airplane. And he learned how to be a crop duster. But then he crashed the plane. But then it's okay because he learned how to be an expert aircraft mechanic, and he fixed the plane and put it back. So everybody was happy. Prove also that he's an expert cow butcher, right? And he did a better job at butchering cows than even the meat packing plant guys could do. He's got to prove that he met Curtis LeMay, but he can't keep straight. Did he meet Curtis LeMay when his mother was taking care of Curtis LeMay's dying father in the hospital? Or did he meet Curtis LeMay at Area 51? Or I guess he met him both times, both when he was 15 years old and later when he was 17 years old. And he just forgets to mention that when he tells the story in the first version. Now we got a second version. The burden of proof is on this guy. Lots of bullshit. I don't believe he's ever going to prove anything. And I shouldn't have to do work to disprove this level of just fakery, fraudery, and made-up nonsense. Let him prove it. For once, can I get a pass and just say, I'm not going to spend 12 hours on the phone with the military trying to fucking confirm this guy's wackadoo stories. Let him prove them. Yeah, that's just me. I don't get it. Crypto Alchemist is here and says, wow, how can somebody actually make so many wild, fantastical claims just ridiculous? Well, here's one of the problems is a lot of people just watch one video of this guy. But when you spread it out and watch 3 or 4, you start noticing a pattern. Like I said, he's always a hero. He's in touch with, he's meeting and being, he's had people request to have an audience with him since he's such a genius scientist. He's always at the center of big historical events, but he's the secret hero of that secret historical event. It gets thick really quick. So Stormcrow says, I almost fell off my chair when he dropped he was a SEAL. Yeah, and just so nonchalant. Oh, because I'm a Navy SEAL. No, you're not. We can check a list of that one's easy to bust. No, David Adair was never a Navy SEAL, right? In a freak accident, Adair went back in time and he became LeMay's grandfather. Yes, that was the paradox that he talked about. Craig Williams says, Adair runs circles around anything Pete Peterson could fling, but then Wilcock is still sitting on that bender of his favorite. Yeah, delusions of grandeur. You are correct, Vibrating Sound. They often place themselves as the hero of their own story. But listen, I think this story is over for now, but I appreciate so many people wanted me to do this. I hope this is good enough. I guarantee you in the comments are going to be all these idiot supporters of Adair saying, you didn't prove he wasn't a Navy SEAL, Stephen, or you didn't prove that he didn't learn to fly an airplane at 15 and all this other. No, let him prove it. That's where I'm at with this clown. Yeah, so I've done as much due diligence as I think is necessary. When you add up this amount of ridiculousness, nobody should be expected to prove him wrong at this point, because it's just so childish and so ridiculous. All these stories with, by the way, he presents not a single shred of any evidence for every one of these stories. None. And isn't it sad that this guy has been making a living telling these stories at UFO conferences, and people have let them? How much money did Michael Salla? He's doing like a 4-part interview with this clown. How much money did Michael Salla make helping circle jerk this guy off and get him to tell stupid bullshit stories for cash, right? And what's David Adair's take? Is he splitting that off? Is Michael Salla giving you half the YouTube money, or what's the financial arrangement there, Mr. Salla? And Mr. Salla should be ashamed of himself for but that's no surprise. This is the same guy that said the Ukraine war started because there's a space ark in Ukraine, right? And the same guy who brings us Corey Good bullshit, and Emery Smith bullshit, and Elena Dannon bullshit, and Linda Moulton Howe bullshit. Of course, Michael Salla. He's a bullshit merchant. Anyway, I'm sure I said that word so much that this stream is now going to get demonetized. But sometimes BS doesn't cut it. You have to say, this guy is bullshit. All right. That's it, friends. I've done my due diligence. I've got a few more live shows for the week. Please follow me on Twitter at Stephen Cambion to keep up with our latest shows. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share these videos on your social media. And if you haven't subscribed yet, people are always buying gift memberships. So if you're one of the subscribers that hasn't yet become a member, you can get a free membership, perhaps, just by subscribing. YouTube randomly gives those out to people who are subscribers but not yet members. So be sure, if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you'll know when we're doing another one of these live shows. We want to thank each and every one of you for joining us, and thank all of you kind and generous benefactors. So that's all I got, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.